Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. John Martinez, right at the top of the show. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat saying, Sandy, have a nice day. Well, I super appreciate you and hope you're having a nice year. Welcome, everyone. This has the potential of being quite the spicy show today. A lot of issues to talk about. The federal election is over. That's nice. But we didn't exactly escape the Trumpism like a lot of people seem to think we did because, we didn't elect Pierre Poilievre, but we didn't have to elect Pierre Poilievre for Trumpism to already be here because, well, we have Doug Ford. And it is warmer in here than I was thinking. I'm going to put the fan back on. I just don't know if you guys can hear it or not, or if it's just like a wash white noise. You know how it is, but welcome. Hello, hermeteorologist. Nice to see you in the SandBox as well. But yeah. So I know what I'm going to do is, there's a lot of federal election stuff I wanted to go over, but I don't want to do it in a live stream. Just kind of recap talking about some of the things that happened. And so what I'm going to do is make short videos about it where I break it into the different segments of like Pierre Poilievre being a loser. What do the NDP do now? Mark Carney's prime minister, now what? And try to break it up that way. And then, of course, post it to my channel. A sure way of knowing if a video is a separate kind of video essay versus a clip from a live stream is normally in the clips from live streams, I put myself in the thumbnail. But if I'm doing a separate, maybe scripted, semi-scripted video that's not live, I tend not to put my face in the thumbnail. And also there's a playlist that I will attach it to so that you know. But I figure there's still a lot to go over, so I don't want to fill up too much of this time just kind of rehashing what happened at the federal election. A lot of people already know that Pierre Poilievre not only lost, but lost his own personal seat, which is causing a lot of drama. Like he now has to run in a different riding, and of course someone just happened to step down to allow him to run a riding who voted conservative 80%, by 80%. Talk about being an absolute chicken shit. Like Pierre Poilievre is just thinking, I have to go in a riding that voted 80% outside of my province, way outside of my province, just to make sure I don't look like a fool. And that will be interesting. But like I said, I figured I'm just going to break them into smaller segment recap videos and focus on different issues as opposed to making it into one long live stream segment and trying to break it up and all that sort of stuff, because there is still a lot to go over. And this live stream will primarily be focused on Alberta because, yeah, like I said, Trumpism didn't exactly go away. It was already here. And there's the whole separatist movement and what that means. And also, I'll be checking the SandBox to see if some key people are joining us because SandBox, we need to have a chat about an issue that I knew was eventually going to come out as an issue I need to talk about. But I'll get into that later, and I'm saving that bit for the end because I want to make sure that it has the time needed to go over it. I don't want it to just be kind of rushed. I don't want other pending news that I might miss, so I try to get through it. I want it to get the attention and time that it deserves. So it will be at the end of everything, but I don't have a bazillion things on my docket. It looks like I have more to me because I see so many more tabs, but that's because with one of the stories with Alberta, I'm not actually reading everything that are on that tabs. I'm just kind of showing it to you guys, and you'll understand when you see it. John Martinez, holy crap, another $10 super chat. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. And you, I can't listen since I'm at work, but I will catch you soon. Well, thank you so, so much. Really appreciate that. I think there's going to be some topics in this live stream that you'll want to get caught up on later. Yeah. And also we have Jet, John Davis, and the Wild West all joining into the SandBox. Welcome. Yes, may the 4th be with you. I'm trying to think like if there's any Star Wars themed stuff that I can pop up on screen that wouldn't instantly get my channel nuked. But you know, I like the you know, may the force be with you and live long and prosper. All of that. All of that. And of course, Star Wars is on my brain right now because the new series season of Andor has been coming out, and I'm watching it. I'm watching the hell out of it. And not only am I watching it, there's then Jessie Gender. She does a breakdown or an analysis of the episodes, and I really like her takes on it. And she also really loves Andor because it is very, very anti-fascist in a way that we're not used to actually really seeing in a TV series before, and seeing the sacrifices needed to start like a rebellion and how disorganized it can be and how difficult it can be. And it's super, super interesting. So I've been enjoying it for sure. Hello, Marty. Hermetologist says, don't hear the fan, though my computer has crappy sound. Okay. Hermetologist, that guy's pretty much giving up his pension for PP. Not really. He was 6 months away from it, but, and he says that in his message, and this is more of what I'll put into the video when I do it about him, that he plans on being back in some way or another. So it doesn't have to be consecutive years that they're in Parliament in order to get that pension. So if he runs again in a different riding or something, he'll end up getting it. So it's not like he's really giving it up, and I'm pretty sure the party gave him something really comfortable to sweeten the deal for him to kind of step aside for a bit. But it's so ridiculous, them looking at the polls and being like, so these ridings here had the highest conservative vote portion. Which one would you like of these, highest three? It's just so chicken shit. He could have at least gone for one in Ontario. But nope, he is too worried. Too worried. It's so funny. Oh. I'm just waiting for people to populate the SandBox. Get some people in here. We're up to 12 people watching live, which is great. I know I'm competing with the Vanguard. There's not a single night I can do this when I'm not competing with someone or something. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. But I'm almost done things with my other secret book. And so then once that's off my plate as well, I can focus on that stupid TYT video I keep on doing, which might very well be irrelevant by the time I actually get around to making it. And then I can just relax. Like, I still have to do those little videos about the election. But I think I want to try doing that as a more regular thing too. So do the live streams, but then do more like David Dole type videos where I'm just talking about one specific thing for 15 minutes to the camera. Because, yeah, I want to diversify things. Also, some of my videos, like the clips and stuff, sometimes they're a hit and can get 1,000 views or something, which would really help. So I'll have to start diversifying my channel, but with the main crunch of the election over, when my book, like I said, I'm almost done with that. When that's over, everything will be so much better and I'll have so much more time. And I've just been so busy with things that I'm going to have to keep busy. I have to keep busy. I don't like being bored, and I don't like long periods of times without things to focus on because that's just not healthy for me. So I will be doing that. Yeah. Speaking of books, there's this one that I already published. Yeah. Please buy it. It'd really make me feel better. And it's more, I want people I can talk to about it. Yeah, it's like if I get a few people who have read the book, it's like, okay, I'm setting up like a super private stream for just those 3 people and sending them the private link so we can just talk about it openly. And I still have to make a video about what it means to be a member on my channel. So I still have a lot on the go, which is a good thing. I'm also trying something different with my hair. I don't know, we trying that little, as opposed to just fully back, you know, the toss look. I don't know what you guys think. Is this working? I don't know what to do with my hair most of the time. And knock on wood, I don't know for sure, but it might actually be working. I've been taking a lot of biotin vitamin lately and some other kind of like hair loss vitamins. And I've noticed, like, it's taken a while because nothing, when it comes to this sort of thing, you have to be on it for months before you notice any difference. But for the past couple of weeks, I've been noticing I'm losing a lot less hair in the shower. It could just be that my hair's not growing back the way that it used to, or it could be that I'm not losing as much hair as I used to, which would mean that it might start getting thicker, which I'm hoping. I'm really, really hoping. I want to have lots of hair to play with. Because it looks a lot thicker than what it is, and that's just the volume. But I can't quite tell yet if it's thicker when I like grab it and whatnot. And it has to be like very distinct. Like, yes, I can tell it's thicker before I'll really accept that maybe it is working. Because for now it could be, like I said, it could just be that my hair isn't growing back as fast as it used to, so that there's not as much hair there to lose as there was before. I don't know. I don't know. But how is everyone in the SandBox doing? Let me know. I'm still in a little bit of a chatty mood, waiting for maybe a few more people to show up before we get into the grind of it. And I've only been yapping for about 15 minutes, which is pretty good. Sometimes I yap for like a half hour. But yeah, the last thing I want to get to today is it's going to be a bit spicy. Just an issue that has come up that I knew I needed to address. I was hoping I could address it differently, but it is what it is. And so I'll be looking for certain people in the SandBox because it is related to discourse in the SandBox, but it is a very, very important thing to talk about. But yeah, so a lot of Alberta news today, some Ontario news, some odds and ends news. But it's not going to be heavy on election stuff. Like, there's just going to be a couple small directly election related things. Part of it is like Mark Carney and Premier Danielle Smith, and something that the Toronto police decided to tweet out because they somehow thought that was a good idea. Yeah. It is what it is, as they say. Oh, but also, I haven't asked yet, is the volume okay? I've tried using the plugin on Firefox, the master volume thing that I use in Google Chrome. It's not working. It's there, but it says that it doesn't have access to any of the sites that I'm using. So I don't know why it's not working. So if we come across a quiet video, there's still nothing I can do about it at this time other than tell people to crank up the volume. And then maybe I can give a countdown when I'm about to talk normally again, so then you can crank down the volume. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a tech genius. That's not, yeah. John Davis says volume is okay, and I got a thumbs up from Jet. Yeah. So hopefully all the videos as I was listening to them earlier, none of them seemed to be really off kilter, except for one, but the problem wasn't that it was too quiet. That was too loud. So I'll have to quickly turn down the volume on that one. Because I don't think it has any difference if I manually put the volume up. So, no, it won't matter when I'm speaking. You'll have to be listening to the video. If I put the volume up on the main system, if that actually affects this, because in OBS I have the volume cranked up to as loud as it can go in the audio output center. So maybe if I increase the volume on my main system, it might go up. We'll experiment. We'll find out together. And let's see, what else is there to talk about? I'm nervous about my other book. I've put a lot of work into it. A lot of work. Oh, it's been years actually. Different social media accounts. And again, it's so fascinating having a social media account that doesn't have my political algorithms attached to it yet. It will still get there because even though it's not attached to my political content, the book can still be considered political in that it just exists. Seeing some of the ways that you would see the algorithm if you weren't in the leftist Twitter sphere is bonkers. Like, it is just wild. The amount of transphobia, I thought it was bad, no doubt about it. But when you don't have your leftist political commentator filters, like, you know, the algorithms catering to you, it's so much worse. Wow, it is just mind-blowing how bad the transphobia is on this. But like I said, we're kind of protected if you're on Twitter these days, if you're part of, like, if you watch my stuff and the Surfs and David Dole and the Majority Report and you like tweets related to that and comment on tweets related to that, then the algorithms are already catering to you to some bit. And like me, you'll still see a lot of transphobic bullshit. But without those algorithms in place, it is mind-boggling how bad it is. So there's that. And also I don't see people that I'm following, of course, at the top of the comment sections. And I'm just seeing other random people, and it is, yeah, it is so bad. It's so bad. But let's see, where are we at with viewers? We should probably get to it. We should probably get to the news. I don't want to be on here too late. I need to unwind after this. And the last thing we're going to be covering is a bit of a doozy. But hopefully by then, there'll actually be the people in the SandBox that I feel is important to actually hear it. If not, I might have to wait till the next live stream. But anyway, let's get into it. So we had a federal election, and we didn't win, but we didn't lose, which I suppose is the good way of looking at it, because I'm very skeptical. I know the word of Mark Carney. But he also has the opportunity to prove himself one way or the other. Somebody in the SandBox spell out the word that I was trying to do, and then I might be able to pronounce it. Because he's not a politician. Like, he didn't have a political background. He was a banker, all this sort of stuff. So the way he approaches things might be different. He might be more responsive to the people. It's hard to say. He doesn't have a record that you can compare him against. So I'm a little bit more wait and see with him, as opposed to wanting to absolutely rip him apart right from the get-go. But there are still some concerning things I've been seeing. So, like I said, it's kind of up in the air. So we didn't exactly win, but since Pierre Poilievre didn't win, we also didn't lose. Skeptical. Skeptical? That sounds so wrong in my ears for some reason. It just does not sound like I'm saying it right. And that just happens to me from time to time. I'll be saying a word and everything is fine with the word, and then suddenly the word will sound really odd to me, like I'm saying it wrong, even though I'm not. It's, yeah, skeptical. It doesn't, for some reason, there's a dyslexic thing going on in my brain where there's a different sound thinking it should be inserted in it. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. So, Mark Carney is now official prime minister with a seat in the House. And he's going to have to start getting to work right away. Like right away. Yeah, John Davis says I'm saying it right, but it still sounds wrong for some reason, which is why I'm getting confused. Yeah, Mark Carney kind of has to hit the ground running, especially when it comes to Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, who is wanting to start a separatist movement. It's so bizarre because a lot of the things she's doing is making her more popular with the people she was already popular with, but it's not helping her popularity overall. And so the people who maybe weren't keen on her to begin with but still voted conservative are really not liking her. The people who already didn't like her are really, really not liking her. But her core right-wing base, they're liking her. She is catering to that one small, very vocal group of people. And so we're going to start off with a statement she released right after the election. And the Breakdown tweeted this out because this is on her account, but I liked what the Breakdown had to say about it. And so the Breakdown on Twitter is the Breakdown AB, and they focus primarily on Albertan politics, and I recommend you check them out if you want to know more about what's happening in Alberta. But they say Danielle Smith choosing her best "who farted" picture to pair with her statement already appears to be moving further right in response to her base lighting their collective hair on fire. Get ready, Alberta. Yeah, I see it. It's definitely, she does have that look on her face. She does. But this was the statement, and it can be found on her Twitter account as well. And it says, I congratulate Prime Minister Mark Carney on his minority government election victory last night. I also want to sincerely thank Pierre Poilievre for his powerful and principled advocacy against the last decade's punitive taxation and anti-resource policies that have made our country weaker, more divided, and overly dependent on the United States. And I am saying it probably the exact same way she would say it. Mr. Poilievre's vision for a safer, more affordable, united, and prosperous Canada drove the policy debate in this country for the last several years and inspired millions to see the unique potential of our nation. While Liberals and New Democrats demeaned and demonized Albertans, our values, and our industries for political gain, Mr. Poilievre made empowering Albertans, and our energy sector a cornerstone of his campaign. His respect and admiration for Albertans could not have been clearer. He is and continues to be a true friend of Alberta. Yeah, I don't think the other, the Liberals and the NDP weren't exactly demonizing Alberta, but if calling Danielle Smith a right-wing nut job is demonizing her by just giving an accurate descriptor of her, so be it. As Premier, I invite the Prime Minister to immediately commence working with our government to reset the relationship between Ottawa and Alberta with meaningful action rather than hollow rhetoric. A large majority of Albertans are deeply frustrated that the same government that overly attacked our provincial economy almost unabated for the past 10 years has been returned to government. Yes, yes, totally attacking Alberta. That's what the Liberals were known for. Yeah, sure. I just I hate this whiny crybaby attitude coming from like her and Quebec. Alberta and Quebec. This you have to make all these special concessions for me. Otherwise, I'm going to get mad and start yelling and crying and pounding my feet. Like, it is so childish. Because Doug Ford, lots of flaws with that guy, no doubt about it. He's at least to some extent trying to work with the government, the federal government. Whereas Alberta and Quebec, they just have no interest in working with the government unless the government is willing to give them absolutely everything that they want and demand. And everything that they want and demand is not doable. It's just not doable. Let's see. As Premier, I will not permit the status quo to continue. Albertans are proud. Who cares about the rest of it? Anyway. So we move on to they had a talk. So Danielle Smith, and this was just a few days after her statement, just finished a positive first meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. We spoke at length about the policies legislation that are holding back Alberta's economy and specific proposals for projects and legislative reforms that will significantly increase market access for Alberta oil and gas, agriculture products, and other goods. The Prime Minister made it clear he intended to rapidly advance these kinds of nation-building projects in the coming weeks and months. We also have discussed our ongoing trade dispute with the United States and how the federal government can work cooperatively with the province to advance both Canada's and Alberta's interests. Repairing the damage to Alberta's economy caused by Ottawa's last 10 years of anti-resource legislation and policies will take tremendous effort and cooperation. However, today's conversation was a positive first step. Danielle Smith writes novels. Like, it is just, I curse Twitter for allowing people to be able to write as much as she does in any general tweet she sends out. But here she said, Mark Carney quote tweeted that saying, "Thanks for the call, Premier. We're both focused on bringing down the cost of living and increasing opportunities in the energy sector for hardworking Albertans." Yeah, so if you're not hardworking because, you live on disability or CPP or something like that, screw you. That is kind of the vibe I'm getting from him. And I hope to be proven wrong. Anyway, I look forward to working together to break down interprovincial trade barriers and to build one strong Canadian economy. It feels like he's babying her. That he's just coddling her, like patting her on the head to be like, yep, I hear you. And I don't even mean that like in a normal, like condescending way. It's more like the way Danielle Smith is demanding she be treated is like a toddler. And Mark Carney's delivering on that aspect. Because if he were to say some of this stuff to other people in a condescending way, you could feel it. But in this way, it just feels like he's like, okay, yeah, whatever you say, dear. Like it's a different vibe, but the same thing, if that makes any sense at all. Grand Theft Autobot speed read to get through the trash. Yes. Ryan Bazols or whatever. Alberta is a hellhole? That's rich. Why is Alberta getting so many Ontarians and others moving here? As far as I know, it's just normal interprovincial moving around. It kind of is, and you know what? So is Ontario. So it has to do more with the conservative governments that we have versus anything else and what they're doing to our healthcare and other social services and stuff. So yeah, Alberta, bit of a hellhole. Then again, so is Ontario, which I will be attacking later on. There can be more than one. So let's see. So here we have from Nahid Nenshi. I never know how to say people's names properly. And he is the leader of the provincial NDP there and the official opposition. Danielle Smith has one card to play, picking fights for the sake of fighting. If she doesn't make an enemy out of the federal government, she's left with no one to blame but herself. Albertans are proud to be Canadians. We know better than to play games when our nation's sovereignty is threatened. And let's listen to what he has to say.
And she's gambling with the future of the country over plastic straws. I hate paper straws. I think most people do. My country is worth more than plastic straws. Maybe it's just the way I was raised, but I believe that a little bit of politeness, a little bit of class, a little bit of grace can take you a long way. And what I do know in my long world of negotiating difficult contracts and difficult agreements is the number one way to get someone to agree with you is to start attacking them on a day when they've just won an election. Of course, that's not going to work. But here's the thing. The Premier doesn't want it to work. The Premier doesn't want to win because if she wins, she has nothing. She has only one gear, and her gear is to fight all the time, even though she knows she can't win and she doesn't want to win. My country, our country, is too important to play with like that. She's going to spend millions of dollars on another fair deal panel, yet another panel to appease her base that she won't do anything with. Once.
Now, it's not so much I don't think she doesn't want to win. It's that she's choosing fights she can't win. Like the separatist thing that we're going to get into in just next. Because I do agree with him that she wants that fight. She wants to be able to play the victim. She wants to be able to say, oh, woe is me, and look at how bad we're being treated. And she does this by picking fights that cannot be won, but that she can cry about till the sun goes down. And I think that's a lot of her tactic, because we're about to get into all the separatist things, which is on a different docket. So I will have to pull that up off screen. But yeah, this is literally a fight to separate from Canada that can't be, it can't happen. It just can't, for a whole bunch of different reasons. But she is definitely stoking that fire because it riles up that small percentage of her base. Like I said, she is becoming more popular with the ravenous right-wing part of her party, but she's falling out of favor of the rest of it quite fast because of it, because she's catering to that small group, to the point where there's even been an MLA, conservative MLA, that have publicly spoken out against her, which is super rare for people of a party to do. And a lot of the cracks in her policies and stuff have become to show, and people who have voted for her before are realizing that they won't be voting for her again because of how bad it's getting in Alberta. But she is all in on this, idea of separation right now, because it is something that she can yell and scream about, but she never has to actually deal with it, because it will never happen. Because if you pick a fight where you can win and you yell and scream about it, and then all of a sudden it's given to you, well, then you have to deal with the consequences, the fallout, implementation of it, and all these other logistical things that become problematic and might be able to show you for the fool you are. But if you keep on fighting for something you know you can never get, then you never have to worry about, so what's next if you win? Because if a province theoretically could just break away from the country, it's not as straightforward as, oh, we're now our own country, because there's an issue with currency, there's an issue with passports, there's an issue with, citizenship and who gets what and who's living where. And, you have to redo your taxes and your tax system. And there's so many other things, like what kind of governance are you going to have? What kind of trade relationships are you going to have with the other provinces? And, well, in that case, it would then be the other country around you. Like, there are just so many things that go into it that you can't just separate on a whim. Not to mention, one of the biggest things that we are going to get into is that it's not hers to give. It's not her province to break away with. Because that land, it's not Alberta's land. That land was negotiated through treaties with the Crown. And it was agreed upon that the land would be shared. And so she can't just come in and say we're going to separate, because it's not hers to actually be able to do that with. It doesn't belong to the province of Alberta. Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot, I just had a meal with paper straw. They never bother me that much to begin with, and they're getting better. Yeah, that's the thing. The paper straws these days, they ain't so bad. But let's get back into it. So here we have from CTV News, Alberta Premier Smith puns suggestions she is stoking separation talk as First Nations chiefs issue warning. Watch again. Okay.
First Nations leaders are accusing Alberta's premier of manufacturing a national unity crisis in an open letter demanding she cease and desist talk of separation. Danielle Smith says she's only enabling legislation for Albertans to have their say. CTV's Shaylan Skalski reports.
It was never designed to, nor does it breach treaty agreements.
It absolutely does.
The Citizen Initiative Act, I think, is the purest form of democracy we have.
Alberta's premier responded today to questions about a recent letter from two First Nations leaders who accused
That number has grown. We'll get into that.
Smith of attempting to manufacture a national unity crisis by enabling a referendum on separatism, adding, "Be advised that your irresponsible statements and actions are in breach of treaties number 6, 7, and 8.
Any Albertan can put an idea forward on any topic, and if they're able to get the number of signatures, then it would go to a vote, and that includes a vote of members of First Nations, and we encourage Indigenous peoples to participate in the process.
Earlier this week, the premier introduced legislation to change Alberta's election laws and lower the threshold required for a referendum to take place, while insisting,
I believe in Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada.
Her comments came at the same time a referendum rally was scheduled to take place outside the legislature. A rally attended by about a dozen people. Would you like to see Alberta become independent?
Yeah, a sovereign Alberta.
Claudette McCain says she was disappointed in the federal election outcome and believes Alberta separation sentiments are on the rise.
We're tired of the energy being stolen, and stopped, and yeah, so I think we got a good chance.
If you
Saying that while on Indigenous land is kind of rich. Just saying. Oh, yeah, all the stealing they're doing from us. And also Ryan Bargles. First of all, Alberta can't leave. Also, no, I wouldn't. Ontario's fine. It's fine. Doug Ford is wrecking it, no doubt about it. But, yeah. The fantasy people have in their brains about how this would work out isn't actually the reality of it. And Alberta also benefits from money from the federal government that they would no longer get.
you don't believe in Canada and you are a tiny, tiny fringe minority, then this government is spending too much time on you already.
Alberta's NDP leader accuses the premier of pandering to her base, while others say the letter from First Nations highlights further division.
I think this is the first of a series of people whose anger will now be inflamed by the insistence of a small, well-organized group to push this forward.
A special caucus meeting on Alberta's next steps is set for Friday. Shaylan Skalski.
So if we scroll down, so what Danielle Smith has done here is to pass a bill that would make it easier for referendums. So here we go. Two-state bill, if passed, would change citizen-initiated referendum rules to require a petition signed by 10% of the eligible voters in a previous general election, down from 20% of registered voters. Applicants would also get 120 days rather than 90 days to collect the required 177,000 signatures. This is like, if you can't get 20% of registered voters interested in some sort of referendum, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. Not to mention how many millions of dollars would a referendum cost. Also, you're trying to do a referendum, like ideally she wants to do a referendum on whether or not Alberta can separate. Again, it doesn't matter. Even if everyone in Alberta wanted to separate, you can't. Like, it's just, that's the way this government works. You can't. It's not as simple as just doing that because, again, you're on Indigenous land. You can't just move. You can't take that land away from the agreed upon trees, and we'll get more into it. also all the other logistical things that I just mentioned. And yeah, it's not as simple as we're crying and we're taking our ball and we're going to draw a line in our room and you can't come past that. That's now our area. It doesn't work like that. And not to mention, there would still, no doubt, be lots and lots of people who don't want Alberta to separate, who are within Alberta. So all this is doing is making it so that pricey referendums are easier to achieve. And that's the taxpayers of Alberta that would have to be flipping that bill. But here we have from Courtney Thoreau, I don't know how to say his name. First Nation and Alberta want our treaties honors. We want sovereignty respected, and we do not want to become the 51st state. Alberta NDP MLA Brooks Arkand says First Nations must be at the forefront of talks about national unity as treaties are made with the Crown, not the province.
In a fit of political rage, the Premier introduced a bill that would make it easier to launch Alberta into a separatist crisis, as if threatening to break up Canada was just another wedge issue. Why now? Why, in the middle of rising costs and global instability, would this Premier choose the path of chaos? Separatism creates uncertainty. It drives away investment, it hurts workers, it hurts the oil and gas sector, just like Trump and his reckless tariffs. But here's what the Premier won't say. First Nations must consent to any talk of separation, full stop. Our inherent right and jurisdiction over these lands predate the creation of Alberta. We are signatories to Treaty 6, 7, and 8 made with the Crown, not with the province. The treaties are binding. They must be respected. And no Premier, no matter how loud and reckless, can erase that. The Supreme Court of Canada has already ruled no province can unilaterally separate, and any path to separation must include meaningful negotiation with First Nations, something this government has no mandate, no plan, and no legitimacy to do. Mr. Speaker, First Nations in Alberta want our treaties honored. We want our sovereignty respected, and we do not want to become the 51st state. There are many like me, Nehiwak, First Nations people, and proud Albertans who feel the same way. And I will take the lead of the late Elijah Harper. I will never, ever vote for separatism, because this is and always will be Indian land.
And so there have been some rallies about this, and this is from Global News. First Nations in Alberta, Saskatchewan vow to oppose any efforts to separate Alberta from Canada.
Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation and Mikisew Cree First Nation chiefs sent a letter to Premier Danielle Smith saying she is attempting to manufacture a national unity crisis by enabling a referendum on separating. Quote, the province has no authority to supersede to interfere with our treaties, even indirectly by passing the buck to a citizen referendum. They also sent a letter to the Prime Minister asking him to step in. On Tuesday, the province introduced legislation that would make it easier to force a referendum on any topic. That comes as anger over the federal election has heightened some calls for a vote on Alberta independence. The chief's cautions were echoed in the legislature.
We are signatories to Treaty 6, 7.
And again, it's just these conservative provinces that are like, no, I don't like how this federal election went, so I refuse to work with the government. I want to demand to get my own way. Because, like I said, Doug Ford, I have no like for the guy at all whatsoever. But he's at least attempting to work with the federal government versus Danielle Smith, who's like, no, you either give us what we want or we refuse to work with you. Which, all it does is harm the people of her province. It doesn't benefit them at all.
7 and 8 made with the Crown, not with the province. The treaties are binding. They must be respected.
I'm not going to prejudge what citizens are going to do.
Premier Smith says the proposed legislation is the purest form of democracy.
We respect all of the treaty rights that are enshrined in the Constitution under Section 35, And the Citizen Initiative Act is not new legislation, and it was never designed to, nor does it breach treaty agreements.
The Indigenous Relations Minister says he has talked to one of the letter writers and is open to a meeting.
Like if we just let things cool down and people settle down and see what's really going to happen.
There's more than a little smoke coming from the government offices.
Constitutional law expert Eric Adams says it's not a stretch for Indigenous leaders to feel there is a push for a separatist referendum by the province. He adds it would be a long and complicated process.
What happens to the national parks? What happens to treaty territories and the sovereign arguments of Indigenous nations?
The Premier stresses without an official petition, the whole separation question remains hypothetical.
But she is making it the cornerstone of everything she is talking about right now. So just a couple more videos about this, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff.
Tensions ran high at the Alberta legislature Saturday. The Rally for Alberta Independence drew hundreds to the legislature grounds in support of the province separating from Canada after the Liberals won the federal election earlier this week. Alongside the rally, a counter-protest taking place organized by members of Alberta's Indigenous community.
He's right!
We're hoping to inform Albertans why independence is important for Alberta. For too long, for 60 years, I've grown up in Alberta. We have been dominated by Eastern politicians and Eastern politics. Our resources have been landlocked since Justin Trudeau got in here. So we wish to be in charge as Albertans of our own nation.
This is our land. Your family came here from somewhere else. Your ancestors came here from somewhere else. My family started here. Have some respect.
Jeevan Mangat, one of the spokespeople for the Rally for Alberta Independence, says the group is focused on getting enough signatures for a referendum, a movement that has been acknowledged by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and gaining momentum since the federal election results.
The purpose of this rally is we are totally focused on the independence of Alberta first. And First Nations is first. So that means step 2, we will be negotiating with First Nations. By law, we cannot negate them. By law, we have to sit and negotiate with them after the referendum passes. And in turn, they have to come and talk to us as well.
And they have no interest in having Alberta separate.
But the organizer of the counter-protest, Elder Taz, says that she is very happy with the results of the federal election and will continue to voice her support for Alberta to remain part of Canada.
We worked hard to get Mark Carney in. It's the Indigenous vote that was the deciding vote. People don't know that. We don't normally vote, but when we have to, we will, to swing it our way. We want the person who will work with us, the person who will make things better and understand what treaty means and understand the need to represent Canada at our treaty talks.
Earlier this week, Smith tabled a bill that would lower the required number of signatures to push a referendum from 20% of eligible voters to 10%, 177,000 signatures. 2 First Nations chiefs issued a statement opposing separation talks, saying the Premier is, quote, attempting to manufacture a national unity crisis. There has not been any confirmation from Smith that a referendum will, in fact, happen.
And also from APTN News.
In Manitoba, chiefs have been meeting all week on a number of issues. Among the discussion is supporting the chiefs in Alberta who are speaking out against Premier Danielle Smith, who will be tabling legislation supporting a referendum on the issue. AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak says this isn't the first time a province tried to leave Canada. She referenced when Quebec tried to separate in the 1980s but couldn't after the late Elijah Harper stood with an eagle feather and said no to the Meech Lake Accord.
If people aren't happy in this beautiful country that we're building together, then you're free to go and live wherever you want, but you can take the You can take the dirt that, you know, maybe your ancestors brought with them when they came over here from, you know, other places. That's the only piece of land that you're going to take, but you're not going to take any treaty land, any inherent land from any of our First Nations people across our beautiful country.
And so some of those treaties. We have one from the Four Nations, and so I'm not going to read everything that they put on here because there's a bunch of these coming out. So the breakdown just quotes them saying, "We, as the leaders of Treaty 6 First Nations, condemn Bill 54, which is an insult to the spirit and intent of the treaties. Our nations have been on this land since time immemorial." I'm just trying to see, okay. So that is the Four Nations of Mascawas Cree Treaty 6 territory. Then there's also this one from Sunchild First Nation, and again quoting them, "Be mindful that as a nation we are here and continue to maintain our footprint on these lands. As our ancestors did, we demand that you cease your separatist efforts immediately." Sunchild First Nation joining the condemnation of Smith's corruption of democratic norms. There's also this one from Treaty 7 First Nations Chief Association, again quoting them, "First Nations will not separate. Any effort to separate will be met with our full opposition." Another one from Treaty 8. "We assert unequivocally Alberta cannot claim sovereignty on treaty land. If Alberta seeks to separate, then it must leave with what it came with. The land, the resources, and the jurisdiction over treaty territories were never Alberta's to begin." And this is the... Is this the cease and desist letter? Oh, no, not that one. So this is this is from Saddle Lake Cree Nation. So another statement, and the breakdown just quoting that, "Let this serve for your formal notice. Your separatist efforts will fail. The strength of our treaties and the resolve of our people are immovable. We will protect our lands and our rights with fierce determination." And Brandy Morin tweeted this out. This is a letter of cease and desist, which was mentioned earlier. So she just quotes everything that's here, saying, "Dear Premier Smith, you're attempting to manufacture a national unity crisis by enabling a referendum on separatism and fanatical sell of individuals at the exact moment when Canadians need to unite against Donald Trump's America. The province of Alberta is on treaty lands. Please be advised that your irresponsible statements and actions are in breach of treaties number 6, 7, and 8, and we demand that you immediately stand down from this conduct. Our treaties are sacred convents that are to last forever. Alberta did not exist when our ancestors agreed to share the land with the Crown. The province has no authority to supersede or interfere with our treaties, even indirectly by passing the buck to a citizen referendum. If you or any Canadians are not happy living on treaty land, they are free to apply for citizenship elsewhere. Sincerely, Chief Sheldon Sunshine, Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. And Danielle Smith was asked about this letter.
There was a letter sent to yourself and one also sent to the Prime Minister from the Chief of Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation and the Chief of the Mikisew Cree First Nation. They say that you're attempting to manufacture a national unity crisis by enabling a referendum on separatism. My question to you is, what will your government do to ensure any referendums respect and do not breach Treaties 6, 7, and 8?
Well, first let me say that we respect all of the treaty rights that are enshrined in the Constitution under Section 35. And the Citizen Initiative Act is not new legislation, and it was never designed to, nor does it breach treaty agreements. The Citizen Initiative Act, I think, is the purest form of democracy we have, and it gives all Albertans an opportunity to play a direct role in the democratic process by inviting them to have a direct say on issues their fellow citizens want to put to the people. Any Albertan put an idea forward on any topic, and if they're able to get the number of signatures, then it would go to a vote, and that includes a vote of members of First Nations, and we encourage Indigenous peoples to participate in the process.
And this shouldn't all be on the shoulders of First Nations to push back on this type of separatist rhetoric when there's a lot of people in Alberta who have no interest in it separating. It's just we're hearing from a small group of people who are just very loud. But we do have Gil McGowan. Albertans have voted overwhelmingly against the Liberals, but if Danielle Smith thinks that means she can safely continue her push for Alberta separatism, she's got another thing coming. The unions of Alberta Fed Labor will lead the fight to keep our province within Canada. So it won't just be Indigenous groups fighting back against this. There are other groups that will probably get more and more vocal the more heated this comes. But like I said, she's picking a fight where she cannot win, also that she can keep on yelling and screaming and playing the victim. Hello, Mist Man. It is not Alberta's land. And you don't like Doug Ford, I take it. Yeah, he is a conservative. And I have a lot of issues with him. And the Wild West, I love these letters. Yeah, they are being very, very straightforward with it, because it's not just that simple. Like, I'm not tied to Canada as a nation. My loyalty does not lie within a flag. It's what, services and stuff. What does this country do to me, whatever country I happen to be in? What does it provide? All of that sort of stuff. What banner I live under, it's whatever. Running a province is very different than running a country. And Alberta does get a lot of money from the federal government, especially when it comes towards things like healthcare that they then go and misspend on. And yeah, there's a lot of people in Alberta who see themselves as Canadian and don't exactly want to give up their identity as a Canadian. Even a lot of conservatives, because as we're finding out with the Maple MAGA movement and stuff, as soon as Donald Trump started saying his 51st state, that he's going to, the trade war, and that he's going to take over Canada and stuff, you had a lot of people who normally would agree with him on everything suddenly get their back up because they're nationalists. They like being Canadian. They want to remain being Canadian. And even within Alberta, there's a lot of people that like being Albertans, but they primarily see themselves as Canadians first. And there's a lot of that also within the conservative movement, and they won't exactly be game to have this happen. So it's just making a lot of noise. It's just her wanting attention, her wanting concessions, but it's not actually benefiting or helping the people in her province. Not when, there's issues around health care, housing, and all these other things that the province is responsible for. Because here's the thing, if she's failing at all those things right now, and they become a country, their own, then they have no one else they can blame for the failures that they are currently dealing out. And just to show conservatives do this with their money, just to show, the little bit mismanagement that they're doing. Thomas tweeted this out. How do you like Danielle Smith's new $250,000 red carpet? Yes, you read that correctly. Her office rug costs Alberta taxpayers $250,000. Now let's talk about fiscal conservatism and entitlement. And ooh, yes, there we see. Ooh, definitely worth $250,000 right there. This has upset some people. And so here we have from the breakdown again, tweeting this out today, Angie's pulled no punches, confronting Smith's decision to carpet her office $280,000 while clawing back supports intended to help disabled Albertans. Smith's response? A decision was made. Well, let's watch and see what she says.
I would like to know why the Premier put over $400,000 on a carpet that you walk on and claw back $200 for disabled. I'm not disabled. I'm a senior, but I do know a lot of disabled people that want to live in their home yet. And she clawed back $200 for the disabled. Some of them are skipping meals. So they can't eat. I'd like her to live on what the disabled are living on. I'm not disabled, I'm a senior, but I've been working with volunteering, basically, for those people. And I would like to know why would she do something like that and spend over $400,000 on a carpet she's going to walk on. She had my vote a couple times, but she will not get my vote this time. And
Agnes, we'll let the Premier answer that one. There was also a text message about a story on 880 Ched about a carpet renovation costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, Premier Smith, you're on.
Well, infrastructure makes has to do maintenance of our buildings, and the buildings in the legislature, the buildings in Government House, they're government buildings, and from time to time, carpets wear out. They get holes in them, they get frayed. Most carpets only last 5 to 7 years. This one was over 20 years old, and a decision was made to replace it. 6,500 square feet. This is just be prepared. There's always going to be maintenance renewal that has to be done on a regular basis for government buildings. There's lots that you can go through and find lots and lots of repairs that have been done. And if you don't do that, you get an Auditor General report, which we just did, saying you cannot, that we're violating our fiduciary responsibility to care for our buildings by not doing replacements. So these are things that have to be done, and there's a regular schedule and a budget for them.
You know, if putting in carpets is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe shop around, see if you can find a better deal. But also, maybe no carpet. Like, that is just a ridiculous amount of money to spend on literally something you just walk all over when there are people who are skipping meals. Because hypothetically speaking, even if this was the cheapest deal she could find, I don't think people were complaining about the old carpet to the point where it's like, oh, we should replace it, when there's so many other people suffering. Like, just purely from an optics standpoint, this was a piss poor move on her part. But hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on carpeting. Just go hardwood. Like, whatever's under the carpet, polish it off. Like, it's not that important what it looks like that you're stepping on. It really is not that important. And you can deal with something that's a little less pizzazz and flair and things of that sort because you're literally walking all over it. It doesn't need to be the shiniest, the newest, the best quality. It's the whole live within your means things that they love to tell people on disabilities. But when it comes to their spending, then they want all the bells and whistles. Even though, because, well, it is easier when it's not their money that they're spending. It's the taxpayers' money. And I'm pretty sure a lot of taxpayers will look at that and be like, that woman who called in, and it's like, that's not how they want their taxpayer money spent. On a fucking carpet. Hello, Lucy Hayes, and thank you so much for the raid. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And just one more, again, to show, you know, just the demeanor of Danielle Smith, in that she's a sociopath. Like, she just does not care about the people suffering in her province. And these are through policies that she is implementing. So the Breakdown had tweeted this out today. A scared senior called into Smith's radio show saying he was scared out of his pants that Bill 54 would be a threat to his pension. And how did she respond?
Bill 54 scares me out of my pants. I'm an 84-year-old senior, and what do you want to take my OAS and my CPP away for?
Well, if that's what you're being told, you're being told a lie, Ed. That is not what Bill 54
I don't know.
is.
I'll have to wait and see, but no, it's not funny.
No, I'm just telling you it's not true.
She laughed at him. He's terrified he's going to lose his income. And that is what she's going for, no doubt about it. She wants to put cuts to these programs. But even hypothetically speaking, if it was far-fetched, if it was 100% a lie, if he had absolutely nothing about, why are you still laughing at him when he is so concerned about this? Where's the compassion? Where's the sense of empathy? Where's the sense of like just trying to reassure him that that's not the case? To laugh at him for being terrified that he's no longer going to be able to support himself? That's just gross.
So I know that the NDP like to say that because that's what they did to scare seniors like yourself in the last election. They said we were going to make you pay for doctors and we were going to take away your pension. And I'm just telling you, we're 2.5 years in, and it's a lie. That is simply not going to happen. Our seniors built this country. Our
private clinics have been going up quite a lot in Alberta.
Seniors deserve support. We support our seniors with additional programs like the Alberta Seniors Benefit and our drug plan. There is under no circumstances are either of those payment programs going to be at risk for you.
Bill 54 scares.
When it comes to conservatives making promises like that, I have a hard time accepting they're being truthful because of all the times they've proven that they weren't. But like I said, even if there's zero chance any of his money was going to go away, and he believed the lies he was being told about it going away, how dare you laugh at him? Like, that just shows a complete lack of caring for the people who are like calling her, wanting some reassurance, wanting their fears to be soothed, and she's just laughing at them. It's so disgusting that somebody who's supposed to be a leader of a province would treat her constituent like that. To just, laugh at his pain. It is so gross. Hello, MIDI doctors. Welcome to the SandBox. Hermatologist, $20,000 for cheap carpet on 7,000 square feet. Grand Theft Autobot, and is that room that got carpet used for? Yeah, people just walk past it. Let's see. Miss Man, home is where you are treated best, I always say. In Grand Theft Autobot, did I welcome you into the SandBox yet? I don't know. I lose track of those sorts of things. And when they defund services like firefighting, then wildfires prompt them to beg federal government for help. The Wild West while taking away popsicles from kids with cancer. Damn. Yeah, I covered that story. She had to backtrack on that one pretty quickly. Because when you're taking away just some of the little pleasantries a child battling cancer gets, it is very psychopathic behavior coming from her. Let's see. Hermatologist. Okay, 6,500 with high quality carpet installed professionally, 80,000. The idea that it's costing, a cheap house worth. A cheap house these days. There used to be a day when 250,000 would buy you a whole house. But, that amount of money for fucking carpet. You could have found a better deal or just not use new carpet. Just get rid of carpet. Like what? Does the carpet massage your feet as you're walking over it or something? Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot. Oh, by the way, I found an apartment. I'm not going to be unhoused. Oh, that is great news. Because I just caught part of that. You were saying that your spouse was on the verge of a breakdown. I'm so relieved for them as well. Yeah. Oh, that as somebody who's been in that situation before of worrying, I know the relief that having a place to live, a home is. I'm so glad to hear that. Matey Doctors, we are at the Vanguard talking, about that stupid Ethan versus Son debate. Yeah, I know that's where a lot of my audience is right now. I watched a lot of that debate. It was, debate. It was quite the thing. It was quite the thing. I don't know how anyone could watch that objectively and think Ethan looked anything adult-like in it. It was just the way that he was agreeing but then lying, and then agreeing that they had agreed but then lying about the agreement, the way that he wanted to move on from subjects before they could really get aired out because suddenly he felt like it was not go in his favor. Like it was really, really bad. Really, really bad. But yeah, I know other channels will be covering that sort of thing, so I don't have to. But I do have a big issue that I wanted to cover, but unless the people related to that issue are going to be here, there's not much point in me covering it, because it's an issue within the SandBox that needs to be dealt with. And to have a nuanced, mature conversation about. Nothing where anyone, like, nobody's in trouble or anything of that sort, but there is an issue that has come up from time to time, I've noticed, that I think is in need of a deeper conversation. But if the people who are related to that conversation aren't in the SandBox, that I'm going to wait until everyone's around. Grand Theft Autobot, I mean, if it's a room where there's lots of foot traffic, one might want a better quality carpet. But if it's just we want to look as opulent just for the shits and giggles reason, no, you did not welcome me specifically, Sandy, but no worries. I'm not offended. I was about 20 minutes late in, says Grand Theft Autobot. And I still saw people say congrats, GTA, and I still think Greater Toronto Area whenever I see that. And I'm like, what's going on in Toronto? Jet, 100% Sandy Ethan look like a petulant 5-year-old. Like, I actually like watching the online debates, but I'm not watching it specifically for the substance of the debate per se. I'm watching it on multiple levels, so that's probably why I find them more interesting, because it's studying the human dynamic, how people are interacting, the techniques and styles that people are using. Because it might be a bit weird given what I'm doing, but I'm not confrontational in nature. I don't like that sort of thing. But I want to be prepared should that ever happen. And I started watching more and more debates when I was interested in getting involved in politics, because I wanted to see the styles and the techniques. So whenever I'm watching a debate, I'm also watching that. It's not just a matter of the substance of what they're talking about. But sometimes if it's a debate on, let's say, trans rights or right to bodily autonomy, that I also do listen to the substance of, because I'm curious if they have a way of presenting a point that I don't necessarily have, an effective way of presenting a point that maybe I've missed. And so it's a learning journey for me with any substantive debates. But then I'm also interested in debates where one side has obviously lost their freaking mind, but the other side somehow keeps it together. And again, it's observing the human behavior dynamic of it. Like, how do you maintain patience with certain people? Because a lot of people might say, you shouldn't, you should just hang up. And when I was watching the debate, I was seeing a lot of people saying that Hassan should have just left. But it shows a lot more maturity and confidence by staying in and staying calm. So yeah, I found the initial thing interesting, and I don't mind watching like other people's breakdowns of it after the fact, because again, maybe they have a perspective I didn't see. So, you know, I do like that sort of thing, but it's becoming harder and harder to find a real debate as opposed to Ethan just with his grievances. Like, it was just him whining about woe is me type thing, and how he's being attacked all the time. And as soon as Hassan tried to make it about the issues, Ethan was back to, oh, well, this other channel did this thing about me. Like, who cares? Who cares? And then there was the debates that Sam was in with that panel, the 20 versus Sam. And that's not as interesting because a lot of those people aren't real. They're just there, picked out of a crowd, and they're just there for attention and saying whatever they think will get them clicks. And I miss the days when there was like actual substantive debates going on. And they're just harder and harder to find these days. Grand Theft Autobot, I'm much better than Greater Toronto Area, LOL. Jerry McLean, Sam, Cedar, and Ethan. I thought the same, but I have zero patience. Yeah, the one with Sam and Ethan, I felt went a bit better because Sam isn't as involved with the online drama. So when Ethan tried to steer it that way, Sam could just be like, I don't care, let's talk about the issue. Because he really is detached for it, and there was nothing Ethan could really nail him on when it came to that sort of thing. But since a lot of the main drama with what was going on was between Hassan and Ethan and all of that drama, then it was easy for Ethan to keep on harping on that. But it was interesting. It was more interesting, I found, more substance with Sam and Ethan, even though I felt like Ethan was performatively conceding to a lot of what Sam was saying because I think he knew he couldn't challenge it. John Martinez, real debating is something I enjoy. Grand Theft Autobot, I could not pay attention to that debate because of Ethan. Hello, Atticus Among Us and Jerry McLean. Is it McLean or... Oh. Sassy Sassy Saras. Boom. Rarely are they qualified for interesting people having debates, and now 90% of debates is eating babies really wrong? Yeah. John Martinez, since my stuttering issue completely vanished thanks to trauma healing, I've been debating people more and I love every second of it. Fascist. Yeah. Grand Theft Autobot, show the clip, show the clip, show the clip, clip. Yeah, I saw that. And I would be very quick to be like, I would have been very quick to say, I don't care about any clip unless I know the full context of it, because I don't trust. If I was on a show like that and they were like, here's a clip, I wouldn't want to comment on it until I've seen like the whole segment, because it can be clipped out of context so easily. Hello, Bobby. Hello, B-Cat. Hello, Soul Life. I was last-ish in VG chat. I missed it. Jerry McLean, that's when I knew Ethan was done. If Sam can't do it, it's all lost. BCAT. Ethan has a modicum of respect for Sam because, yes, he knew he couldn't get Sam in on petty drama. Left of the box. Sassarai. Sassarai. Okay, Sassy Sassarai. Hopefully I'm saying that right now. Oh. But yeah, so there's still a few more news kind of thingies to go to. Should probably get to that, but I'm still not seeing a core group of people that I wanted to see in order to tackle the last issue. So it might have to be until the next live stream, which is fine, because there's still lots to talk about. So what did I want to do next? Oh, right, I can close all these. See, I have a bazillion gazillion tabs open. Not an exaggeration. Yeah, it's an exaggeration. Because I still have, like, just make sure that I want to close down that one. Yeah. That TYT video that I'm working on, that now that the election is over, my other mystery book is almost completed and taken care of. I'll be able to focus all my time on getting that video done. Hopefully while it's still relevant, because I've already invested so much time into it, but I have like a bazillion tabs that I have open of tweets and comments and videos that I can't close until this is dealt with, until I've made that video and I've accounted for everything that I want to account for. And I want them gone because the paranoia that they're going to disappear is wrecking me. It's wrecking me. Like I do have my browser set up that should the computer just shut down, all the tabs will be restored. And even if they're in different instances of the browser, they'll still be restored. So that's good. But it's still like I have that paranoia because with Google Chrome, you can accidentally click it close and they just go away. And I've learned now that there are ways of retrieving them, but before I didn't have that. And some of them, there are so many tabs in one of the instances, I'm worried that there's no way they would all be retrieved. Especially ones that I haven't even looked at in months. So I want it gone. I want it gone. I want to no longer have to think about them because they are definitely spiraling. I saw some of the stuff that Anna was on her take bullshit. Wow. Like to actually put it in the promo video, disrespecting Indigenous peoples by mocking 2S. Because here's the thing, if you didn't know what 2S meant, you could have Googled it before making condescending remarks about it. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Oh, but that was, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I've already invested so much time into that video. I hope that I still get a chance of getting it out. And it's probably going to be broken into 2 videos because even though I'm fine with long video essays, even I have to concede at some point that it's like, okay, this is going to be too long. And what the plan is right now is that I would show one half on a Saturday, then have a live stream, a talk back where we talk about it. If there were super chats in the premiere of it, I could answer it. And then the Sunday, show the second half and do another talk back live stream. That's the plan for it, but I can't give a date as to when that will be done. But I can assure you, I want it done. So it's going to be as soon as possible as I can get it done. Like as soon as possible while still making sure it's up to a quality that I want to see. Okay, so let's see my other docket here. Oh, no, so for people who are also wondering, I'm not getting heavy into covering what happened in the federal election. For those of you who are arriving a bit later, that's because I'm just going to make actual videos as opposed to putting it in a live stream where I'm going to break it down a bit. So, you know, talking about Pierre Poilievre specifically, how he lost, how he hopes on coming back. Mark Carney won, so now what happened with the NDP? And I'm just going to make them into their own separate videos and be posting them as opposed to making it like one long segment in a live stream. So you will still get my breakdowns of what happened in the election, but you're just going to have to keep your eyes open for them. as I get them out over the next week or two, and it will be, hopefully I'll be able to keep them to about 15 minutes each. But I didn't want to bog down a live stream going over a lot of what, I think a lot of people already know the most part of, but there's my analysis that's missing from the equation that y'all will get to hear. I'm so distracted by the SandBox right now. Because I'm in a chatty mood. I'm in a very chatty mood. Atticus Among Us. Chatting without liking is poor form. B-Cat, wait, what? What did it say, Sandy? What did what say? That's so out of context. What did what say? That part really pissed me off, says Atticus Among Us. Okay, now I don't know what you guys are talking about. You'll have to tell me what did what say. Oh, what? Okay, I'm seeing the context. What did Anna say? They were just mocking. Like, they're like, what is a two-spirit? Well, they didn't say two-spirit because they didn't know that's what the two... They said, what is a 2S anyway? And then somebody said, I think, two-spirit. And they're like, oh, what is... And it's just the way that they were saying it. Like, what is a two-spirit is gross. And then Anna was saying... Yeah, in the morning, I don't even have any spirit or something really, really stupid like that. It was disgusting that in the promo video of this, they were mocking Indigenous peoples like that. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Monop says, I'm just talking about Sandy's gray hair. Why, thank you. Decided to try the flip look. Flip it over. And I'm hopeful, super hopeful, it's actually growing in more because I've been losing less in the shower lately. And I think I've been on biotin now, biotin vitamins and other kind of hair and nail vitamins for months. And when it comes to issues like hair loss and whatnot, it does take months before you can notice any difference. So I don't know if I'm getting more hair growing in or I just have less to lose because my hair is extraordinarily thin. It just looks like there's a lot because of volume. But fingers crossed that losing less in the shower is an indication that the biotin is working. Hello. Oh my gosh, I forget how to say your name. Cersei? No. Surez. Sir. Atticus Among Us, that was the cherry on top. Anna saying she doesn't have one in the morning. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't know how much lower she can sink after that. And apparently she didn't even advertise it on the Young Turks. That could be a contractual thing, because I wasn't allowed to advertise my YouTube channel when I was doing Rebel HQ videos. But it could also be an embarrassment thing. And the fact, like, this is a minor point of it, but the fact that she had on almost the exact same outfit as somebody else, you could have planned that out a bit different, because both her and another woman on the panel were wearing like a bright red, almost like small strap dress, plain dress with matching lipstick. I'm like, you could have coordinated that better so that you're not wearing the exact same thing in the opening. Sassy Sir, however you said I said your name, Sassy Sir, Sassy Sir Rare. Your hair is actually beautiful and your skin looks flawless, sis. I thank you. Let's see. Just sassy is okay. Okay, I'll go with just sassy. Because I just wash my hair once a week if people are lucky. Well, I also have a secret to what I do with washing my hair. And I use baking soda, then I rinse it out, and then I use vinegar and rinse it out. So like a little thing of baking soda and mush it up with water and then put it in, scrub it around, wash it out. And then like that much vinegar in a cup with some water and mush it around and rinse it out. And it gives your scalp like an after dentist clean feel. But I've been doing that for a long, long time. And since I've been doing that, I haven't had an issue with dandruff. Because I used to have big issues with dandruff and that went away. Okay. I'm getting too distracted by the SandBox and we still have like news stuff to get through. BCAT, is that like a clarifying treatment, Sandy? I use it like every other time I shower and it's good at stripping away like the chemicals and the goop that regular shampoos have. And it also detangles like you wouldn't believe, because you think in order for something to be cleaning, it has to be lathering and you feel the suds and the soaps and stuff, but that's not the case because, you know, you just mush it around, get it all in and rinse it out and whatnot. And then afterwards, when I'm combing out my hair, super easy, like it's a breeze. Anyway, why don't we get back to this? Hello, 56 Nick Rich. And yeah, I already said hi to you. Hopefully I'm not missing anyone. Monope, like a science fair volcano. It's done separately. It's done separately. Just, you rinse one out, you do the other. Oh, hello, Soul Life. Someone asked me, why do you use Head and Shoulders? You don't have dandruff. Yeah. But the vinegar and the baking soda, I find I haven't had issues with dandruff ever since I've been using them. Anyway, let's get back to the news because I was ragging on Alberta for quite some bit for this live stream. Now it's Ontario's turn because we avoided Trump-like politics on a federal level by not having Pierre Poilievre win the election. The thing is that there's a lot of, it feels like mixed emotions coming from Doug Ford. A lot of conservatives now don't really view him as conservative because he's willing to work with the Liberal Federal Party. But if you look at his actual policies and what he's doing, it's very Trumpian. Like there's no doubt about it. Doug Ford is still in line with Trump except for the 51st state bullshit and the tariff war. If it weren't for that, Doug Ford would absolutely be praising Trump in everything he does. And the policies and everything that he wants to push through are very, very similar. So here he is having a temper tantrum because, you know, conservatives love to have their temper tantrums that he can't get his own way when it comes to biking lanes because some judges ruled, you know what, there should be an injunction on what you want to do. So let's listen to that. So Richard Sutherland from City News says, watch Premier Ford goes on massive rant about judges, specifically referencing last week's injunction on bike lane removal, which will cost millions of dollars, and it costs millions of dollars to put in. And Doug Ford is overriding what the city wants in order to do this. We're talking about Toronto. And he's saying that he's doing it for traffic's sake, where lots and lots of people use the bike lanes, and it will do nothing to make traffic better by getting rid of those lanes. But yeah, so Ford says judges are too ideological. Well, let's listen, shall we? Unfortunately.
But why don't we have the next election, the PC party, the Liberal Party, the NDP party, the Green Party, and the Judges Party? because they overturn everything, right down to the bike lanes. So, we get them.
Judges are supposed to be separate from politics. So if they're ruling against you, it's because they're following the law. It's getting mad at them because they're not ruling in your favor isn't an ideological issue. It's the fact that you're trying to do things that go against, what's already established law-wise or constitutional right-wise. It's not an ideological thing.
Democratically elected, and some judge slaps an injunction on bike lanes. Don't the judges have anything better to do than worry about if we're taking out bike lanes or not taking out bike lanes?
Don't you have anything better to do as premier of the province than worry about bike lanes, which is a municipal issue? Huh?
One judge says, yeah, not a problem. The next judge, not because of law, because of their ideology. Their ideology is thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't take out the bike lanes. What right do they have, an unelected, politically appointed judges, determining our budgets? Because of the decisions the judges have made in the past have cost us $10 billion. And we ran on a mandate.
If it's cost you money, then you were doing it wrong. Like, every time that you decide to go against some sort of constitutional right and people take you to court and that's taxpayer money and it's causing billions of dollars, that is because you're doing things that are wrong.
We got elected democratically. Last time I checked, there hasn't been any judges elected. Maybe that's the problem. We should do what the U.S. does. Let's start electing our judges, holding them accountable. And that's my rant for the day, because I've just had it. We get elected to move forward, and some judge, because of the ideology, decides, well, let's put an injunction on bike lanes. You got to be kidding me. The system is broken. And I apologize to all the great judges, all the great JPs, but the system is broken and we have to change it.
Like, just how mad he's getting at the fact that he can't get his own way with the bike lanes, and the way he's like having a temper tantrum over it it's so bad. And like I said, he's like, how dare these judges actually care about this? Why does he, as the premier of the province, why does he care about these bike lanes so much that he's getting so riled up on the fact that he can't take it out? Which, taking out these bike lanes were to help him and his buddies with certain things. Like, it is all ideological for him. And no, they should not be voted on, because if judges get voted on, then it absolutely is based on ideological reasons. Judges should be appointed. I'm fine with the process that they're going through right now, because it's supposed to be nonpartisan. The instant you make it elections, it becomes partisan and it becomes ideological. And that should absolutely not happen. And if he's so upset that this just keeps on happening to him, it's because he's trying to do things that go against the law. It's as plain as simple. It's the look in the mirror thing. It's not a, oh, is it me or them thing. It's a you, it's a him thing, he is what is doing the things wrong, not the judges. And if all of these judges keep on ruling against him, again, he's the consistent factor in it. He should really look in the mirror about that, but he doesn't care. He just wants to overrule judges. And he's already used the notwithstanding clause. He's threatened to use the notwithstanding clause to get his way in other kind of criminal related issues. He's screeched about bail reform without putting enough money into the systems to actually get the judges and things that we need to help, to help quicken the pace of people going to court. So a lot of cases just get dropped because, if they're not seen in court by a certain date, then constitutionally they have to be let go. Like, it's ridiculous that he's complaining about this when he is doing things that nobody wanted. Nobody, who in Toronto wants those bike lanes gone? Like, realistically speaking, there's so many people that use it and benefit from it, and it's helped the city and it's helped people's health. And it does help a lot of people get to point A to point B a lot quicker. But he wants them out for his own selfish reasons and is mad he can't get his way. And so here we have Canadian Civil Liberties Association and our statement on Premier Ford's alarming remarks on judicial independence. Sakir Rahim, Director of Criminal Justice Program, CCLA, made the following statement. Premier Ford's comment that judicial independence is a joke and judges do not have legitimacy because they are unelected are deeply alarming. Respecting the independence of the judiciary and rule of law is necessary for a fair criminal justice system in Canada and protects all of our rights and freedoms. The fact is that bail in Ontario is more difficult to obtain than ever. Around 80% of people in Ontario prisons have been denied bail and are awaiting trial. The CCLA repeats its call for the federal government alongside the provincial and territorials to collect comprehensive data about the bail system. Policy and law reform must be based on sound evidence, not sound bites. And then Paul Champ, who is a lawyer, tweeted this out, quote tweeting Laura Stone here, who is a reporter. So Ontario Chief Justice Michelle Tula. So I'm going to read it because it's attached to a Globe and Mail article and they have a paywall, but Paul Champ was just saying dumbest thing Ford has ever said or done, attacking judiciary and anti-democratic Trump garbage. I thought he and his folks knew better. And so this is the statement that they are talking about. So public statement by Ontario's 3 Chief Justices regarding judicial independence. We are very proud of the work the judicial officials who preside in the Ontario courts. Judicial independence is a cornerstone of our constitutional democracy. An independent judiciary protects the public, not just judicial officials. It means a society governed by the rule of law. In Canada, this means, as is set out by Section 52 of the Constitution Act 1982, that the Constitution is the supreme law of the country. Our constitutional democracy is comprised of 3 branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. And all 3 branches of government must exercise their power and authority in accordance with the Constitution. Now, the United States was supposed to be broken up by that, but as you can see, because a lot of their judges have to be elected, and then they are appointed in certain positions for completely ideological reasons, you can see how damaging that is to the United States, how those judges are making laws to benefit Donald Trump and to take away people's rights. It's not about protecting the people. It's about, getting through what they want to get through for their ideological reasons. It needs to be separate because then that way as well, it means the people who are in the legislative branch can be held equally accountable to the law, as opposed to laws being made to keep them safe. So while the legislator that enacts legislation is the role of the judicial official to interpret and apply the law. To fulfill this role, judiciary must be distinct from and operate independently of all other justice system participants, including the other 2 branches of government. The principle of judicial independence is generally recognized as having 2 dimensions. The first applies to individual judicial officials and embodies the fundamental principle that the judicial official must be seen to be free to decide each case on its own merits, without interference or influence of any kind from any source, including politicians. The second applies to the court as an institution. It requires the court as a whole to be and appear to be independent of the legislative and executive branches of government. Together, both dimensions safeguard the judicial decision-making process and, in turn, the public that court serves. Every Canadian has a constitutional right to have their legal issue decided by fair and impartial judiciary. Our justice system is founded on public confidence that decisions, whether popular or not, are fully heard and fairly made. It is crucial that the judiciary are both actually independent and appear to be independent so that the public can be confident that judicial decisions are made without bias. Something the United States could learn a little bit from. Our courts have generally done a far better job of interpreting the law than what you would see down in the States. And the fact that Doug Ford wants to interfere with that is an indication that what he wants to do goes against the Constitution of this country. But it's not just this that we have issues with Doug Ford, because he's been crying about the courts for quite some time, but something that tends to slip under the radar are things to do with the environment. So here we have Mike Schreiner. He's the Green MPP, leader of the Green Party in Ontario. Doug Ford's Bill 5 will trample on Indigenous rights, labor standards, and environmental protections. This bill needs to be stopped. Protecting Ontario must include protecting the people and places we love. That's why today I called on the Premier to shelve Bill 5 and instead work with us on a plan that speeds up projects reasonably and respects the duty to consult First Nations.
The special economic zones in Bill 5 will give Cabinet unprecedented powers to allow them to handpick any corporation that won't have to obey any law, including labor, health, and safety standards, environmental rules, and provincial and local planning laws. These zones will have zero legislative oversight, zero rules, and zero consultation with everyday people and First Nations. I want to be clear, I'll work across party lines to fight Trump, but not for a bill that is a race to the bottom. Removing labor standards, environmental protections, and consultation with people will actually undermine public confidence and the social license to build. Let's fight Trump, not with Trump-style policies, but by respecting the will of this legislature and the rules it makes. So I want to say to the Minister, will ye work with us to build faster while respecting democracy and First Nations rights?
And so this is more about Bill 5, and this is from Environmental Defense. Premier Ford just introduced Bill 5, which would give him and his cabinet Trump-like powers. It would allow any person or business that he and his cabinet choose to ignore any and every provincial or municipal law, not just environmental, endangered species, and farmland protection laws, but also the laws that protect collective bargaining, workplace safety, heritage employment, and even the laws against speeding and trespassing. If passed, Bill 5 would repeal Ontario's Endangered Species Act 2007, marking the end of meaningful protections for endangered and threatened species species in Ontario, and give Premier Ford and his cabinet Trump-like powers to give their friends or anyone else they choose an exemption from all provincial and municipal laws that amount to personal license to mistreat workers, bust unions, ignore workplace safety, pollute, or even snoop around other people's private backyards with impunity. Keep Ontario dependent on imported fracked gas from the U.S. by letting the government ban Chinese components in energy products, shutting the door on clean, affordable wind and solar energy, exempt the Premier's preferred developers from requirements of the Environmental Bill of Rights. Stop the attack on democracy and rule of law by sending a letter to your MPP, Premier Ford, and key decision makers today. And so they have this take action thing. And I will toss this into the SandBox for people. So if you're in Ontario, please sign. But yeah, like I said, a lot of the Trump-like politics we were worried about would be implemented should Pierre Poilievre get into power are being done here in Ontario by Doug Ford. But people tend to overlook that because Doug Ford is playing ball with the Liberals. But all the policies and stuff he is doing are harmful. Extremely harmful. Like this one.
Meanwhile, today the Ford government announcing its plans to reintroduce legislation to empower municipalities to clear homeless encampments. That's something Mayor Nuttall was a leading voice for when it was first tabled ahead of the provincial election late last year.
We're looking at working with the County of Simcoe, working with Barrie Cares and lots of folks from the community to make sure that we can get the sprung structure set up with the necessary services integrated to ensure that when folks are being removed from these encampments and into a more stable situation, that they also are being given the services to get out of that situation overall.
It's part of the more than 70.
The problem is that never happens. They're offered certain services, and if the people don't take it, then they accuse the people of not accepting whatever service they offered, even though that service might not accommodate them for whatever multitude of reasons. And I've gone over this plenty of times on my channel. If somebody is offering a way to get off the streets and the people are preferring to stay in the encampment, that's because that is the least worst option for them. If somebody is starving and you hand them a rotten apple to eat and they say they don't want to eat it because they'll get sick, you can't then turn around and say they are choosing to go hungry.
$25 million plan. The Ford government is moving to a new model for recovery services known as Heart Hubs, with Barrie approved for one already.
And those Heart Hubs were supposed to be open by now because they've closed down the supervised consumption sites, and yet they aren't. They aren't open yet. So just a reminder, because I covered this when it first came out, but the proposed Safer Municipalities Act would allow for increased penalties for those repeatedly trespassing or refusing to leave public areas when requested, such as parks where people have the encampments. The legislation also seeks to bring back the Restricting Public Consumption Illegal Substances Act, enabling officers to order people to stop using illegal drugs in public and issue fines up to $10,000 or jail time up to 6 months for noncompliance. Where else are they supposed to use drugs if they are dealing with an addiction, especially when they've closed down the supervised consumption sites in a lot of areas? Where? You know, if they don't have a home, where are they supposed to go? And you can't just tell people to stop using illegal drugs and suddenly it's like, oh, well, since you told me to, I'm going to. That's not how that works. It's so frustrating that their way of wanting to end this problem is by just making everyone who is forced to live in one of these encampments a criminal so that they can be arrested and thrown in jail. A little bit more on that. This one, the volume was really wonky, so I will have to lower it first because it started really loud.
Introduced yesterday. Government is going to fine people $10,000.
And there are some weird cuts in this, so you just have to bear with it.
Bill 6 was introduced yesterday. Government is going to fine people $10,000. People that don't have housing. If someone doesn't have housing, if they don't have money for rent or for a home, they are not going to have $10,000. The province has been failing at record levels. We've never had the level of homelessness that we have in Ontario. Be directly attributable to the dropping of rent controls.
So what's happening in this province is more and more people are becoming unhoused. And the encampments last year, there was over 80,000 people in the encampments. And Doug Ford's solution to that isn't more affordable homes, making sure people can get back into homes, making sure people can keep the homes they're in. His solution is criminalizing them. Finding ways that he can just throw them in jail because they have nowhere else to go. The problem he caused, he now wants to just criminalize those people.
The government immediately dropped rent controls. Rents can go up anything on anything built after 2018, and that's happening in my city. I'm seeing rent increases of 10 and 20%. I'm hearing about it from tenants that are having to move. because their unit is new and their rents are going up hundreds and hundreds of dollars and their income's dead. Homelessness is being created by government. It's the provincial failure. The province downloads its housing responsibilities to the municipalities and is going to fine those that they're failing. So Bill 6 should be put in the shredder.
When adjusted to population, Ontario has the lowest housing starts in history. Housing is the excuse for intervention, yet the new tools were not used to include the affordable housing component that municipalities requested. The auditor report on ministerial zoning orders reveals that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing made MZOs instead of MZOs, which were introduced in 2020. The ministry had housing enabling tools but did not use them. Housing is provincial jurisdiction. The province downloads its housing responsibility to the municipalities and chooses to fine those that they have failed. It is housing that prevents homelessness. We should be building housing. I request $60 billion be downloaded to the municipalities who have the responsibility for this housing in order to make them whole and to meet their housing goals. The municipalities should be treated as partners in our housing ambitions and goals.
Instead, what Doug Ford did was override municipalities again to make it so they can't have fourplexes if they want to have fourplexes, which would be really helpful in a housing crisis, because in the lot of one house, you build four. Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Like it's about, changing the zoning, changing the density, changing, making cities more accessible by having things closer together. I would love to live in a building where I could just go down to the main floor, and on that main floor would be a cafe and a convenience store or a grocery store. That would be so beyond amazing to have that sort of thing available right there. Or to live in a neighborhood where I could just walk out my building and walk down the block and have all those amenities right there. To have little businesses nearby, so people who have jobs might be able to live like super close to their job, which would help with, traffic congestion if you could just walk over to your job. There are ways to fix this problem that won't take years and years and years. Renovate existing buildings by changing what those buildings, empty buildings, empty factories or office buildings, renovate them into housing. There needs to be more done, and it needs to be done fast, because a lot of people won't make it as long as it will take for these very small incremental changes that the governments want to put in. And while the federal government, maybe they're trying to do something, when the provincial government is doing everything they can to make housing more difficult. Taking away rent controls, I can't tell you how devastating that was to people who rent. It is just horrendous that a landlord can raise your rent by hundreds of dollars when your paycheck doesn't nearly go up that much. And so every time a new rental contract comes through, you're having to sacrifice more and more and more. For a lot of people, there is nothing left to sacrifice, which means they're out on the streets. And trying to get off the streets right now, with the way this province, this country is nearly impossible. It is just, more needs to be done. More pressure needs to be put on the government. And Doug Ford is absolutely responsible for the harm his policies have caused, for the social murder he is responsible for. And I wish we lived in a system where he would actually be held accountable for these things. Instead, he stands a very good job of winning, the Conservative Party if there's a leadership race there. Because people just like him. He's a likable person. And so all of this social murder suddenly doesn't matter all that much. It's disgusting. But here we also have Education Minister tells Toronto School Board to find budget savings or I will take you over. Another way that the government wants to take control of our institutions. Ontario Education Minister Paul Calandra warned Canada's largest school board that the province will take over control unless they find savings and balance its budget. Calandra made the remarks during question period on Thursday when asked the Toronto District School Board TDSB proposal to close some swimming pools and eliminate several music instructor positions to address the $58 million deficit for the 25 to 26 school year. This is like the other issue that I have with these governments is things like they'll tell people on disability, well, you just need to budget better. You can't. It doesn't matter how well you budget when you have nothing to budget with. And the Ontario government keeps on slashing money to education, and then they're told to balance the books. And what they do here is they take examples of some extreme cases of one-offs where in this one school, they went on a trip to Italy and bought artwork that cost thousands of dollars or something. I think it was like a Catholic school that did that, which is outrageous, and they should be held accountable, and there's no way the school board should have been paying for that. Or they point to the CEOs and look at that. Oh, look at that. And that's like pointing at the one person who's maybe doing fraud on Ontario Works to justify why they should slash everyone else's Ontario Works. The idea that they have to close down swimming pools and music instructors in order to balance the budgets when we should be having more pools, more music instructor, more art, more programs within schools so that children have a well-rounded education, more areas that they can socialize and groups that they can find out if they have a passion for and explore their talents and have different social networks. That's what schools are for. To start cutting all of the other programs that for a lot of kids made school manageable to go to is it's horrendous. And it's not that they're like for a lot of these school boards, it's not that they're misusing the money, it's that they don't have enough money. And the province is demanding that they meet these unrealistic budgets, knowing they can't do it and then threatening to take them over when they can't meet the goals they knew were unachievable. So the Toronto District School Board has been running deficits, multi-year deficits. What are they being asked to do is saving of less than 2% on average of over $3 billion budget. Now they did exactly what I expected them to do, right? They last night attacked students and teachers as opposed to finding savings, Calandra said, referring to Wednesday night's TDSB Finance and Budgets Committee meeting where staff presented several measures to balance the budget. The education minister, who recently announced that the province would launch an investigation into the TDSB finances, gave a stern warning to the board. Do it right. Do the right thing for students, do the right thing for teachers, and if you don't, I will take you over and I will put the board back on track. It's very paternalistic language, too. It's really gross. Calandra suggested that instead of cutting those programs, the TDSB should reduce the number of superintendents it has and go after the $35 million of paid leave. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Get rid of paid leave for teachers. He claimed the number of TDS superintendents in the Sunshine List has grown. The list discloses public sector salaries over $100,000, and it should be noted that the threshold has not been adjusted for inflation since it was established in 1996. Some superintendents, yeah, they're probably getting overpaid, but that doesn't, even if you were to cut back on that, that doesn't make up the difference that's needed. Even this 35 of paid leave doesn't make up, 35 million of paid leave doesn't make up the difference that they want. But no, we should just get rid of paid leave for teachers. We are not looking at the TDSB. Why? Because the TDSB and their trustees are all about protecting themselves and the expense of students and the expense of teachers, Calandra said. He added the investigator will find a way to put the board back on track, and if they don't, I will take it over and do it for them. The province has already taken control of the Thames Valley District School Board following an investigation that found the board has been running significant deficits. The TDSB has clarified that the closing of pool and elimination of music teacher positions are just options being considered and no final decisions have been made. probe an attempt to deflect responsibility, trustee. During Wednesday's meeting, TDSB Director of Education Clayton Latouche acknowledged that what staff are proposing will affect the students' experience. Just know that had other options having less impact and presenting less difficult circumstances have been available, those are the options the staff would have brought forward. And please understand that we bring these options forward because they are required for us to meet our statutory obligations, Latouche said. All student boards must pass balanced budgets by June 30th. In a special board meeting Wednesday, trustees informed TDSB staff that the ministry has not provided further details about investigation, including its scope. Trustee Shelley Laskin said during the meeting that she believes the investigation is not really about the board's finances. This is only about underfunding public education in the City of Toronto and attempting to deflect from the minister's responsibility, Laskin said. On Wednesday night, Trustee Dan McLean, the chair of the TDSB Finance and Budget Committee, was critical of Calandra's implication that the board was mismanaging its finances. McLean said educating funding has not kept up with inflation, and the TDSB continues to deal with that. He noted that the TDSB is the most transparent public entity in the province. It is my personal opinion that the minister and his staff are serious about wanting to locate the source of the TDSB persistent budget challenges. I respectfully suggest that he and his team look in the mirror, McLean said. Yeah. They are it's like the whole thing of Doug Ford making it impossible for people to afford places to live. So then they end up in encampments, and then he's criminalizing them. And it's like, well, the minister is underfunding school budgets by so much they can't possibly meet their obligations, and so then he gets to take them over. Like it is more money needs to be put into education. We have schools that are falling apart. If that, that is what the teachers and the boards would love to do, is fix the leaky roofs and put in air conditioner in all the schools that are needed. But they can't do that because the province isn't giving them the money they need. Meanwhile, an example of what a province could do that is actually good and should be done here. Breaking, Nova Scotia has announced parking is now free at all hospitals. There is no reason that Ontario can't do the same. I agree with that. Nurses and doctors shouldn't have to pay to go to work. I'm fighting to make hospital parking free across Ontario. Moreover, I think that people dealing with illness or getting treatment or needing testing shouldn't have to pay to get that done. Or if you have a loved one in a hospital and you're visiting them regularly, you shouldn't have to pay to do that, to make sure that they have that company. It's not just about the doctors and nurses, and no, they shouldn't have to pay to go to work. And so this
Recently,
MPP is
we've been
fighting
talking
to make this thing in Ontario as well, and I wholeheartedly agree it should be.
Recently, we've been talking about tariffs and how they're just another tax on families. I want to be clear. Charging patients, families, and workers a fee just to park at a hospital is just another tax on the everyday working people in the province of Ontario. We desperately need to recruit doctors and nurses in Ontario, and the last thing we should do is charging them a tax just to go to work. Patients should be focused on getting better, and their families and loved ones are already worried about the stress of caregiving. There is no need to add the extra stress of a fee or a tax just to park at a hospital. MPPs don't have to pay to park at Queen's Park to come to work. Why should a nurse or a doctor or a worker have to pay to go to work to save lives? The Premier has refused to take simple action to save everyday people across this province their hard-earned money. No one, not a patient, not a worker, not a family member, should have to pay out of their pocket to access our publicly funded, publicly delivered healthcare system. We should increase funding to our healthcare system and finally, eliminate fees for hospital parking across Ontario once and for all. Thank you.
Yep.
Recently.
Okay, back to the main show. I just have one more docket to go over, and it's not terribly large. Let's just check to make sure I can close all those tabs. Yes. So first I will check the SandBox. I don't know why, but my voice is already really strained today, and I haven't even been doing all that much talking. Hello, Shade Dragon. Shade Dragon, I guess everyone has heard that Texas is making trans people undocumented now. I haven't heard that directly, but sadly it doesn't surprise me. Let's see. Hello, Pixel Snob. Okay. Grand Theft Autobot. Doug Ford's arch nemesis. Biking lanes or bees? Let's see. You guys have been really chatty. Okay. That's where I remember leaving it off roughly. We'll talk about that other debate that we don't really need to talk about anymore. Hello, PJ Fry. I'm not sure you've seen you in here before, so welcome. Miss Man, any more like Trumpian, and Doug will say stuff like, they're eating the moose, they're eating the beavers. 56 Nick Rich, can we effectively use expletives and profanity here to express our opinions? Sandy does. I don't know what would get in trouble in the SandBox, like what would be censored by YouTube if it's typed out in there. I know I curse. I don't think I curse over the top or anything, but I do curse from time to time. And personally, I wouldn't care if it's in the SandBox, but I don't know if YouTube would like it if it's in SandBox. Just like I can't put a curse word in the actual title of the video. Jet Ford, how dare they thwart me from selfishly diverting money into my pockets? Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot Ford. Judges turned me down. Fuck those motherfucking ideal fucking judges. Pretty much. I guess you can curse in the SandBox without issue. Ceres? Ideology or interpretation of the laws. Yeah. Hermeteorologist, almost radical leftist. I don't know if throws that line though. Oh, I think you're talking about that debate that happened. 56 next Rich, Mark Carney is PM. Thankfully, our government will continue as a free democracy. I will be putting together videos about the election, some recap videos about it, but I will be making them as separate videos as opposed to putting them into a live stream. Because quite honestly, I don't think I have the energy to spend. It would probably end up being like 2 hours if I'm just blabbing it out here, because I tend to get off topic and swivel around. So I think I'd like more to have a more focused video and separate them into like 3 different distinct issues. One about PP, one about Mark Carney, one about the downfall of the NDP type thing. And make them into their own 3 separate videos and then post them. So Life, it will help Sandy reach new viewers. What will help me reach new viewers? Because I would like to reach new viewers. Let's see. Jet, holy crap, Trumpaman literally sued John Roberts, claiming the judicial branch is supposed to be controlled by the executive branch. And that is why we shouldn't be allowing judges to be elected here, because then that sort of thing will definitely start to happen. It needs to be separate. They can't become partisan. And by making them elected in, they absolutely become partisan that way. Let's see. Jerry McLean, a fine for homeless people. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. They don't have enough money to, rent an apartment or live in a home. So yeah, fine them $10,000, knowing full well they'll never be able to pay that off. So where do they go? Jail. Shade Dragon. Actually, the laws being brought back are exactly what Canada had instead of ugly laws. So ironically, yes, they're bringing back the ugly laws. Crap, I was kidding. Now I've made myself sad. Soul Life Fourplex sounds kinky. You have quite the imagination then. Not sure how that would be kinky. Shade Dragon. Oh, that's called mixed zoning or mixed occupancy in walkable cities. You'd have to move to Europe for that. So Life, they have that at apartments in Salt Lake City. It's amazing. Free coffee, water, arcade, gym, pool, and it was $675 a month for a beautiful studio with a view of the mountains and a big glass wall. Yeah, I wish we could get that. I wish we could get that here. I know, like in Toronto, there's some areas where like an apartment building is built basically on top of a mall and a transit hub. Like that would be amazing to live in a place like that. And then you actually get to meet people in your building, because when you go down to those little shops and stuff like that, you're bumping into people that are your neighbors. Like that would be so great. I would love that so much. But, try affording anything like that these days. It's impossible. Let's see. It's down at the bottom. $56 Nick Rich. It ain't perfect, but the Canadian healthcare system is better than most. Yeah, I have criticisms about this healthcare system, but I also acknowledge it has saved my life 5 times over. If I had lived in the United States, I wouldn't have made it this long, quite literally because of the healthcare situation. BCAT, criminalize poverty, then you'll never have to worry about prison labor. Shade Dragon, seriously, they have that kind of zoning in Europe. It's common. They have since the Middle Ages. Non-walkable cities only came about with the advent of the Model T. Well, let's get on to the last docket, and then I guess we can just chill out for a bit, because a lot of the people that I wanted to be around to talk about that issue in the sandbox aren't around, so Let's get on to it. So there are just a couple teeny tiny things here about the federal election. I know I said I wasn't going to focus on that, but this is because I feel like it's important to acknowledge this, but they don't really fit into, what's next with PP, Mark Carney, or the NDP. So I just thought this said a lot, this little CNN clip. I feel it, and it's very, very Canadian.
I think who I voted for would be the best to take care of Trump, because Trump is, I'm sorry to say, an ass, and he shouldn't even be president of the United States. But because he is, we need a strong person so that we could stand strong. I think.
So Canadian. I'm sorry to say, he's an asshole. You gotta have that sorry in there. If you're going to be on an American news clip, you have to throw in that sorry. It's just, I don't make the rules. That's just the way it goes. But something a little bit darker around the election. So I had talked about this before the election, but police associations were putting in their 2 cents over who they would like elected, which for people that are supposed to be implementing the law equally across the board is very disconcerting when they start promoting their ideology or publicly announcing what their ideology is. And it makes you worried that then if the other party gets in, how are they going to respond? Well, with hints of threats, really. So this is from the Toronto Police Association. And this says the same as what it says here. So the TPA congratulates Prime Minister Mark Carney, and we look forward to working with your government. In response to our letter, we learned of your position on issues like sentencing guidelines, bail reform, border security, and support for our members. We're eager to see you will implement these changes, and will hold your government accountable if you don't. You will have many competing priorities over the coming days, weeks, months, but our communities and our members want public safety to be one of them. Gotta love when police say something like that. I remember the Toronto Police Board said something along those lines when Olivia Chow didn't want to increase their budget as much as they wanted to. And it's like, well, shucks darn, if you don't give us what we want and we're not around to help you should there be a crime, oh well, you brought it on yourself. There's just some language the police need to stay away from. But, this is still a thing. I don't know why this is still happening, but this is still happening. So Dallas Duncan here says, today the city of Toronto will raise the Israeli flag, the symbol of state facing genocide charges at the ICJ, with ICC arrest warrants pending a state that arrest warrants pending, a state that has killed tens of thousands of innocent civilians, bombed hospitals, killed healthcare workers, and is currently starving 2 million Palestinians while blocking humanitarian aid. I can only imagine the trauma this causes. There has been almost no public debate over this contentious act. If American flag were to be raised on July 4th, I suspect it would spark far more discussion. And I did look into it a bit more because I was worried that this was like an old story because it was in the news last year. It's not in the news this year for some reason. It's almost like mainstream media is not wanting to pay too much attention to this. And also something of note here, because again, I wanted to look into this a little bit more. You notice here, right here, they tagged the city of Toronto, but right here, if you go there and you hover over it and you see it's not in that funny blue color, that's because the city of Toronto went in and untagged themselves. Because I went to their Twitter account and there's no mention of this flag going up. But it's in, as we'll see, there's a record of this sort of thing. So this is current. But it was in the news last year. But this year, somehow, it's just going way under the radar. And this is from the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada. City of Toronto hasn't untagged themselves in this one yet. We are deeply disturbed by the decisions of the Ottawa City and City of Toronto to raise the Israeli flag, while credible human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and United Nations bodies, have documented acts of genocide and crimes against humanity committed against Palestinians in Gaza. This is shameful endorsement of violence, not a symbol of solidarity. We were, however, pleased to learn that Mayor Olivia Chow did not attend the flag-raising ceremony, unlike last year, which is why part of the reason why it was in the news. Canada must be mindful of its role as a peacemaker and take action on Israel's crimes against humanity. Like, could you imagine them raising a Confederate flag in solidarity with something in the United States? Utterly ridiculous. And then some people will try to compare this against, like, oh, well, the pride flag will get raised and blah, blah, blah. Different issues there. One is about inclusivity and making people feel welcome. The other one is showing a symbol of a state that is committing genocide. It's not the same. It's not the same. You don't have to treat everything the same just because it happens to fall under one pole. But here, Kativa is saying steps away from the hospital in Toronto. The Israeli flag was also raised at Queen's Park, the provincial government building, guarded by police, paid by public dollars. Because, of course, you know, people might get upset with seeing that there and maybe try to take it down. Israel has killed 1,200 health workers and bombed almost every hospital in Gaza. Every day, children and adults are having their limbs amputated with no anesthesia, antibiotics, or pain medicine. Today marks 60 days since Israel imposed a total siege on Gaza. No food, water, no medicines. 2 million people are being starved. Fitting for the Israeli flag to be raised amidst the health and educational institutions that are punishing students, faculties, and staff for opposing Israel's genocide in Palestine. Well, they also help to sustain Israel's heinous crimes. Shame on each and every one of you. So this is what I could find about it to make sure that this was happening this year. And apparently there's a special poll in Toronto where City Hall can raise these things. So flag raising in 2025. The following is a list of flag raising for the current term of council for flags that will be raised on the courtesy flagpole at City Hall unless otherwise noted. The use of the courtesy flagpole neither implies nor expresses support for the politics or policies of nations and or organizations, but raises the flag in recognition of those citizens or members that have made that request. Funny how they don't raise like a Palestinian flag. That one doesn't get up for some reason. Because, yeah, by allowing it to go up on the pole, you are endorsing it because they do have lines. They won't raise the Confederate flag. They won't raise a Nazi flag. They somehow won't raise a Palestinian flag, but they will raise the Israeli flag. So this isn't... So them saying it neither implies nor expresses support, it kind of does. And so May 1st, multiple sclerosis Canada flag to mark multiple sclerosis awareness month at Mel Lastman Square, May 1st. State of Israel flag. State of Israel Independence Day. That is not something that we should be celebrating here in Canada. We don't celebrate July 4th or other nations' Independence Day. Republic of, I do not know how to say that flag, National Sovereignty and Children Day, Republic of Poland. So, well, okay. I guess that there are a lot of other states that we toss up there. But Poland isn't currently committing a genocide. I'm just saying. They're not currently committing a genocide. Union Jack, Victoria Day. Yeah, so they do have other marking of Independence Days. Okay. So I concede on that point. But those other nations aren't currently involved in a genocide. I'm just saying. And I would love to see the Palestinian flag up there. Let's see. So then we have here, for people who were wondering how this worked, and they're, I think they were, so Diane Chan McNally, an outspoken person when it comes to housing issues, says, I spoke to the Globe and Mail about voting when you're homeless. Homeless people are constantly and strongly impacted by bad government policy, yet their ability to vote is strangled due to Elections Canada being out of touch with their lived realities. It's a Globe and Mail article, so I can't open it because of the freaking paywall. But here's what Elections Canada, no doubt their bot, had to say about it. Hi, removing barriers to registering and voting is a key part of our outreach activities. We hire community relations officers to work with different communities, including electors who are homeless, to make voting accessible and possible. You can find more information on the programs here. For more information on how homeless electors register and vote, please visit this website, which we will see in just a moment. And Diana says, I'm aware outreach is good, but in an environment where more and more people are unsheltered and agencies have high staff turnover, the ID requirements are too high a barrier. Also, why does Election Canada's making voting accessible in long-term care, but not in shelters and drop-ins? So this country, generally speaking, is good at, making voting accessible. The problem is, how do people know? How do you know how to vote if you're unhoused, if you don't have people actually going around and telling you? Because this is how you vote if you're unhoused. So eligible electors who are homeless or have no fixed address are welcome to register and vote. Everyone who votes must prove their identity and address. You're homeless, but provide your address. They clarify this in just a moment, but this, this, as somebody who's unhoused, if I somehow knew to go to this webpage and found that, I would be irked. And then you can click for a list of accepted documents to prove your identity and address. And for some people who are unhoused, holding on to a driver's license or a health card or other sources of ID can be tricky, especially when the police come in and throw away all of your belongings. So here are some of the ways you can prove your identity and address when you go to vote. To prove your identity, you can show a piece of ID with your name on it, like birth certificate or a health card. To prove your address, you can show an official letter called Letter of Confirmation of Residence. If you have gone to an establishment that offers food, housing, or other social services, you can ask the administrator of the building for this letter. Some examples include shelter, soup kitchen, a community-based residential facility. So these are the places where you can, on your computer, print off a letter of confirmation and bring it to those places for them to sign off, so that you can then jump through all these other hoops to make sure that you can vote. And I do understand to some extent, not anyone should just be able to show up to a poll and be able to vote, that there should be processes put in place. But are you going to these shelters and soup kitchens and community-based residential faculties with these letters in hand to hand out to these people and say, this is what you need to do? That would be helpful. That would be beneficial. But to expect people who are unhoused to be able to search for all this information on their own when they're busy trying to survive is asking a bit much. You can also declare your identity and address in writing and have someone who knows you or who is assigned to your polling station vouch for you. The person vouching for you must be able to prove their identity and address. A person can only vouch for one person, except in long-term care facilities. Funny how that one works. So a social worker that maybe got a job in a polling station can only vouch for one person, as opposed to, I know all of these people in the shelter that I go and volunteer at, so all of them are, no. But in a long-term care home, you can have one worker work at a poll station and say, yeah, all these people, they qualify. Funny how there's that discrepancy there. You can use your voter information service to find your polling station. Because, again, internet access, all that sort of stuff, readily available to people who are unhoused. Go to our homepage and voter information service box, enter the postal code that appears on your letter of confirmation of residence. You can also call Elections Canada toll-free to find out where your polling station is. Election Canada has community relation officers for homeless electors. The officers focus on providing information to these electors. They can also assist and deliver presentations to administration or occupants of halfway houses, shelters, organizations that provide services to homeless electors. By doing so, they raise awareness about where, when, and the ways to register and vote. When I was unhoused and living in shelters, we didn't get this information. It's kind of reliant on other people to set that up. Elections Canada understand that reaching homeless electors is more challenging. Along with community relations officers, we worked with stakeholders, form our Inspired Democracy Network to spread information about the electoral process, particularly how homeless electors can prove their identity and address. Far more work needs to be put into that. And the last couple things I just want to cover is the same. It's about the same story. Content warning. It's just a little bit of a follow-up to the tragedy that happened in Vancouver. Nothing graphic gets shown, but I do feel it's important to, provide some updates with that just horrible incident where somebody who is mentally unwell drove a vehicle through a crowd of people at the Lapu Lapu Festival, and sadly 11 people were killed in that, and there's still a few people in critical condition. But I feel some updates are important to hear with this story, because so far it's not attached, from what we can tell, it's not attached to an ideology. It wasn't terrorism. It wasn't, some sort of political statement. So far, there's been no word if it's an incel or things of that sort. What the evidence is pointing towards now is somebody who is mentally unstable. His reasons, we might not ever know. But here is teen who lost parent, sister in attack, thanks donors. Oh, right. They don't say anything here. So Richard Lee, 47, Lee Hong, 30, and 5-year-old Katie Lee were 3 of the 12 people killed at the Lapu Lapu Festival attack in Vancouver. The family is survived by 16-year-old brother Andy, who did not attend the festival as he stayed home to finish his homework. The family's GoFundMe page has received more than $500,000 in donations.
Hello everyone, my name is Andy Lee. I would like to thank everyone who has donated to my GoFundMe campaign, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and I know that many other families are hurting too, which is why I like to donate $266,000 to the other victims from my GoFundMe campaign. I want to continue living with my grandparents who has helped raise me and truly love me. Thank you all so much for your support.
Yeah, that is a good kid there, but just absolutely devastating. And him donating more than half of what he got to help other families is just an amazing kid. But here's a little bit more information on it, and another person who did an outstanding act even in the light of the darkness. Well, not in the light. Even when all this darkness was happening, still managed to do something that I think a lot of people wouldn't have been able to do. And we'll get into it.
Made multiple charges against a group of men for alleged assaults. In a turn of events, some of the alleged victims have also been charged. As Helen Pike.
Oh, this is not the video. that I wanted. Sorry, I might have to back up here. There we go.
One week since the driver of an SUV that plowed through a crowded festival celebrating Filipino culture forever changed countless lives. This church in Delta, one of several packed with parishioners, just like Jeanette.
I just can't get my head around it. It's just horrible. Even after a week, I just don't know why these things happen.
It's a sentiment shared by so many in the wake of the mass casualty incident that killed 11 people, from just 5 to 65 years old. BC's premier among the notable dignitaries attending another service at overflow capacity on Friday.
There were moments in this tragedy of unimaginable courage.
I saw this blur, this black blur just go by at extremely high speeds.
Courage from bystanders like Dudley Green, who stepped in to guard the suspect, Kaiji Adam Lowe, from Vigilante Justice.
And they were like, that's him, he's the driver, get him, right? It was a very volatile situation.
And to protect others from themselves.
One of them, I looked in his eyes and I saw the intent. And I said to him, brother, if I move and you do what you're planning to do, who's going to look after your family?
The 30-year-old son.
That takes a lot of courage to do what he did there. Because, yeah, the anger and everyone must have been feeling in that moment. It could have easily gone in a different direction if it wasn't for someone like him to be there to make sure that other people didn't wreck their lives going after this person in rage. Because if he had, he would have been taken, his family would have lost that person too, because that person would end up in jail for who knows how long for the vigilante justice. So, you know, a lot of courage from that man to be able to do what he did and to keep calm in the face of such horrific tragedy.
Suspect driver with a lengthy history of mental illness appeared in court Friday, charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder for now. The judge ordering an assessment to determine if he's fit to stand trial.
I'm sorry.
As more than a dozen victims remain in hospital, 4 of them critically injured.
Yeah. So, I'm sure in the following days and weeks, we're going to find out more about motive, more about the victims. I've seen some videos about some of the victims, and they're all heartbreaking. And if people want to see them, they can look them up on YouTube. I don't really have it in me to show them right now because they are pretty upsetting. Okay, close those tabs, yeah. Okay, so I am done with my docket. Oh, and it's not even 3 hours yet. But then again, I still had a very long thing that I was going to go over, but I haven't seen the people that I was hoping to be here for this conversation here, so I will have to put this on hold. I did say that I would address this in my next live stream to the person who was concerned about it, I'm not seeing them or the people. It's something that I've seen come up in the SandBox a few times, but I'm only catching tidbits out of the side of my eye as I'm going through news and stuff. And I just feel it is something worth talking about. It's something I have been planning on talking about. I was just hoping to have somebody maybe here to talk about this specific issue, but I have a hard time networking. I have a really hard time networking to find somebody who would be appropriate to bring on for this conversation. And it's about Indigenous peoples and their views on settlers. and some of the language that's been used and tossed around. And I've seen it out, like I've said, I've seen it out of the side of my eye, and I feel it is well overdue for it to be addressed, especially now that the election is over and I can focus on it. And it's not, I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad at anyone. It's not about calling anyone out, but it's, you know, maybe about changing perspective, learning. It's a nuanced topic that needs further discussion. Trying to talk about certain things in the SandBox, just not a good platform for that. Too many things can get misinterpreted and miscommunicated, and personal biases are thrown into it. So it's better to have this as an aired out conversation versus just trying to respond to tidbits of information in the SandBox. But the thing is you don't know till you know for a lot of this stuff. And, you know, it's, I guess you could say it's a learning moment. It's something to learn on. But yeah, let's check. I just want to make sure, okay, I haven't missed any sorts of super chats and stuff. And, you can become a member now. I'm going to be putting together a video. So over the next while, I'm going to be putting together a lot of short videos. So one's about the election, but I also want to put together a video about what it means to be a member in this community. And because I know it's going to hurt my chances of getting more members, but members don't get extra perks. But what members do is help subsidize the SandBox for everyone. Because the more members I get, the less stress I'll have, because that means I'm getting more income. And the less stress I have, the easier it is for me to focus on content creating. So if I get a lot of members, then that means that I'll be able to put together videos that maybe I wouldn't have been able to before. So they will be videos or live streams courtesy of members, but they're going to be open to everyone. Because as somebody who lives with poverty, who's been excluded from so many groups because I can't afford to stay in them, I don't want that for other people in the SandBox. I want this to be a really, truly inclusive place, regardless of income. Because so often you have a sense that because you have less to give, that you are less of a person, and that is not true. Your opinions, your participation are just as valuable as everyone else's who can afford to pay for a membership, pay for super chats. And I don't want anyone to feel excluded or to feel like they're missing out because they can't afford to be a member. And to me, that's very, very important. So I will be putting together a video about that. Let's see. Some people have narrowed in what I'm going to be talking about. But, you know, like I said, nobody's in trouble. But it needs to be talked about. And it hasn't happened just once. Oh. Let's see what people are saying in the SandBox. Everyone's been wonderfully chatty. I'm up as high as I can go. Is it? Okay, did see some of those, so I can scroll down. Yep, saw some of that. Now that sounds kinky if you don't know what the context. Cat saying, I forgot about soaking. If you're right, so life, go and be glorious and soak till your heart's content. Wait a sec, is that a thing? I'm not up to date with all the terms. To me, I'm just thinking, you know, a nice bath, but so like Bob, get in here and jump on the bed. That I do know the reference to. the Wild West. It's a bit of a sex cult in that you can't reach the highest heaven without polygamous marriage and having kids. Talking about Mormonism, I take it, in the SandBox. Cat the Wild. I have a dear friend who was raised Mormon and things were really hard on them growing up. I've met Reformed Mormons and they have stories. So Life, even the US doesn't pay for hospital parking. You mean there's something along with healthcare that the United States doesn't pay for and we do? Atticus Among Us. I remember coming home from high school and my mom would have invited the two missionary boys in for tea and cookies. They looked like deer in headlights trying to figure out how to escape. Sometimes you don't want that call to be answered. I'm just saying. So Life, my religious neighbor used to invite me to eat dinner, but they used to hold hands and pray, and I did not want that responsibility. Yeah, there are some religious folks that are very open and don't have any expectations when they're giving out charity type thing or inviting people over and just being friendly. But then there are some that are like, well, you have to participate, and that's pushing it. That is pushing it. Cat the Wild. I'm now an atheist, but was raised Catholic and have sort of a fixation on deconstruction content. I follow a couple deconstruction Mormon couples here on YouTube. I can't say I'm an atheist because I don't believe in nothing, but I don't follow any religion and I don't believe in a creator or a god of any sort. Let's see. Oh, wait a sec. I did read some of these. Okay. Must have skipped some earlier. Shade Dragon, mostly the stuff that I post on here are from Twitter still. That's still where I get the best networks, the best access to reporters and stories and I find about news stories on Twitter that I'm still not seeing on Blue Sky. It does take a little bit more work because I have to do a lot more fact checking and verify my sources. But yeah. Shade Dragon, conservatives do tend to love to be losers. They commemorate their losses, the Alamo, the Confederacy, Trump 2020. Let's see. So Life, Trump renamed all the holidays related to veterans. I knew he was doing some stupid stuff like that. I didn't know if he actually followed through with all of it or how much. Let's see. People talking about secure ID or real ID when it comes to voting. It's a tricky one when people are unhoused and maybe don't have all their documents because you do want to prove that they are eligible voters, but more groundwork has to go into it. Don't wait to be invited to these organizations. You know, they have to go out preemptively, actively spreading the information. Gunstroke the Cybertonian. Hello, and welcome to the SandBox. Hi everyone, I made it to Mexico last week, currently staying with some family I know, and I feel like a lot of typos here. Feel like I can breathe and think easier while becoming a TEFL tutor. Is that some sort of, I don't know that acronym. And people talking about the kid who's giving away part of his GoFundMe. And it jumped. Where was I? Where was I? Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, people have pretty easily, I think, zeroed in on what I was getting at. But I want everyone to feel welcome in the SandBox. Gunstroke the Cybertonian. It was difficult for me to portray how I felt since almost every family member I know in the US was complacent and ignorant until I made the trip to Mexico. I don't know what. See, this is the thing. I'm missing parts of conversation when I just keep on scrolling through. Let's see. B-Cat, sorry, Sandy. It is not a bath, though. I wish I had a tub that I could have a decent soaking in. Like water in a bath type soaking. I don't know what else you're meaning. Like there is a tub in my apartment, but it's not one that you could really immerse yourself in the water. So it's generally just showers. But especially like in the summer when it's really hot and gross, I just want to soak in like cool water and relax while having like music on in the background or, you know, a podcast on or something that I can listen to. Sometimes I just give myself foot baths to help with the heat and whatnot. So life, I'm agnostic, not to the T of the definition, but I think I'd fall into that category. Oops. Ah, it keeps on jumping. Where was I? Where was I? I hate when that happens. As far as I know, nobody is... Well, I don't know how to see if anyone is actually banned. So I don't know if they're watching and are banned. I hope not. But the best way to reach out to me if you have issues or concerns is by emailing LeftoftheBox. because leaving a comment on a video is going to be very hit and miss if I see it. So it's easiest to just email LeftoftheBox@gmail.com. Let's see. Okay, there's where I was. Bobby, I'm an atheist. It takes a lot for me to believe anything. And John Davis, organized religion is a grift. Yeah, I'm not a fan of religious institutes. Religion, if you want to believe what you believe. But religious institutes, I have huge issues with. And people talking about, I guess, sci-fi stuff or something? Yeah. So, like, they sell kiddie pools at Dollar General. I'm not too sure how I would fill it up when I don't have access to a hose. Not only that, I don't exactly want to sit in one where people can see me. And setting one up in my living room, also not doable. Because I'd have to dump it somewhere afterwards, too. And moving it around and all that sort of stuff. So, like, I don't watch if I'm banned. If I'm banned from a channel, would I watch it? I don't know. I've never been banned from a channel that I know of. Oh, Gunstroke the Cybertonian, TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language, for sure. Oh, we have ESL, English as a second language. Not much pay, but it'll help with bills at least. Yeah, we do ESL. And I wanted to be an ESL teacher when I realized I could teach adults. Even as a kid, I did not like other children. But I had a knack for teaching English to some immigrant friends that I had and whatnot. And it wasn't until my mid-20s when I was like volunteering and stuff. I'm like, wow, I could do this with adults? This is what I should have done. But going back to school for it is just not doable because I would need to get a university degree and then spend a year at college to get certified in order to do that. So not doable. And people are like, oh, well, you can take night courses or part-time. Still costs money that I don't have on disability. So, sorry, need to chop this down so I have easier access to these tiny little jelly beans I've been munching on in the past couple live streams. The sugar helps me going. There we go. But when you cut the package down, you don't hear me moving around in it so much. But I love these little jelly beans, the flavorful ones that you can get. Even these are like the knockoff versions that you get at Dollarama, but they're still good. And I like them in that you can't just take a handful and pop them in your mouth because the mix of different flavors don't always blend. Which means I have to sort them. And I have to eat them in twos. And I find that kind of satisfying. I'm also thinking now that I've been through a full docket, the idea of actually trying to tackle this issue too, now, I'm a bit trained. And when I do talk about what I want to talk about with the, with what's going on in SandBox, I want to have my full energy. So I might do a live stream devoted specifically for this. Or I might post a video about it. Because I have all the points kind of written out. It wouldn't take me much longer to put it into an actual script. Because part of the reason why I haven't just spontaneously talked about this is I want to make sure I'm saying things correctly. Because again, nuance really matters in this type of conversation. So it might be worth putting into a video as opposed to me just trying to live stream it, but I do have like the points kind of written out that I want to cover. And the thing is that I had to put out the points I want to cover because this is something I've been thinking about covering for a while. It's not just something that popped to my brain. So I've put some thought into it. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. I don't know. Is anti-case tarot banned? I wouldn't know how to... I don't even know how to check. But it is definitely something I want to address. But it's 9 o'clock now. If I were to try start dressing this now, I think I'd be burned out. Well, I'm already halfway burned out. And I want to give this my absolute full attention when I talk about it. I'll check with Auntie Kay and see if she'd be okay with me just making it into a video, or if she would prefer it actually in a live stream. Because the other thing is too, I don't want people commenting on it until I'm done, because there's most likely going to be, I'm going to address what they're about to say. And then if they're commenting on it while I'm trying to talk about it, it will be distracting. And it means I have to back up to address things and stuff, whereas it would be easier if people were to just leave all the comments till the end. But we'll see. Oh. Because I didn't, yeah. I'll have to Google it to find out, to see who's banned. But also, yes, if I were to have this on a live stream, Looney Tunes should probably be present for that conversation. So like there's 2 ban lists for YouTube, so it's stupid. 1 ban list is through YouTube app for the example. And if you Google it, you'll get a different ban list. That does sound stupid. Oh, well, let's see. Is there anything else people would like me to touch on before I kind of maybe just unwind and call it an early... Yeah, it's been 3 hours and 15 minutes. Call it an early... a short live stream. Because I'm game to maybe talk about some more casual type things for a little bit, but yeah, I'm just, there's been a lot on go, especially with my other book and what I've been doing for that, and you know, the recap of the election. I need to start putting together notes for that, and I have a lot on go this week, so I'd be good just calling it an early live stream and just relaxing for a little bit. But I'm also in a chatty mood. Sometimes those two things don't get along well. I do have a fair bit I want to cover about the federal election that just happened. Of course, by the time I get the videos out there, it's going to be a moot point, as is usual with my ADHD. I wish I was better at that, you know, getting out videos sooner on certain topics so that they hit when people are actually looking for them and they're more likely to show up in people's algorithms. Because I see other people talking about the federal election, the Canadian federal election, and they're getting tens of thousands of views on their videos. So I'm like, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this all wrong. But then again, I haven't been posting individual videos lately, only live streams. So if people were to just drop in on my channel, they would see the last video I did was like a couple months ago, the Doug Ford video, recap of the provincial election. They wouldn't know that I've done a lot more videos since through live streams unless they go to the live stream tab. So that's part of the reason why it's important for me to post clips of my videos, of my live streams, so that people know that I'm still actively making content. And I think that would help my channel. But yeah, I need to do more content. Which, again, now that the federal election is done, my other book project is almost done, I'll be able to focus a lot more on it. And I also need to get that stupid TYT video done. And then I can focus almost solely on making content. Well, making content and doing art. There's still a lot of artwork I want to do, but that doesn't detract from my ability to make videos per se. Those aren't incompatible with each other. Shade Dragon, half burn sounds like every first pancake in a batch. Actually, when I make pancakes, I usually make 2 at a time. And the first pancake always turns out better for me. And the second one is always a little bit more half burned. And I think because when I make the first one, it's still heating up. So it's not so bad. But then the second one, it's just getting all the heat. Let's see. Oh, nope, I don't have a belief in God or gods. Neither do I. But I do believe in a type of soul, a spirit, whatever you want to call it. But I believe it's just a natural part of the universe, like evolved naturally within the universe, not because of some god or creator making it. So I believe in things people would think of being called reincarnation, but not exactly what people think of reincarnation. It's a well-developed theory in my brain, but it's based on, you know, just how I feel and things and experiences I've had versus being told what I should think about these things. So Live, I was going to post the unbanned link, but it's not coming up on my mobile search, so I'll have to try again on PC. Usually the AI tells you. Well, if you can find it, feel free to email it to me, please. Bobby, I always thought it was wild how people believe something because a lot of people believe it. It's like QAnon spreading like cancer. The more people believe it, the more people believe it. Jet, I'd like a wormhole weapon coverage, but I don't think Einstein would like that. No, that's what Farscape is for. Shade Dragon, LOL. Interesting. My first one is always ugly cake. Still tastes good. I have made scrambled pancakes before when it's just like, okay, it's a lost cause. But yeah, I usually make 2 at a time, and the first one always turns out brilliantly. The second one, it looks a little toasty. I'm fairly certain agnostic means... That's the thing about a lot of these terms, is that they can mean a lot of different things. Agnostic is more... you don't rule out the belief of something. Like, you believe something is out there, but you don't know what it is, and you're fine with that. Whereas an atheist believes there's nothing. To me, that's... So I would fall maybe more in the agnostic, but not really, because I do have a belief. But it's my understanding agnostic just means you believe there's something more, but you don't know what it is. Monope, yes, so left, but I'd say I'd also have an active belief in non-existence of God. It's kind of messy, maybe. I just prefer atheist, yeah. Sometimes these terms can get very complicated, which is why I just will sometimes say I'm queer as opposed to trying to explain it every time that I'm non-binary. I'm, you know, I have a sexual preference in men, but that's by no means a restriction when it comes to romantic relationships, and I can get sexual with people from other genders, and you know, there's sapiosexual involved, whereas I have to be drawn to the person's intelligence in order to be interested in them. And you know, even though I'm non-binary, I tend to present female and all this sort of stuff. Like, it gets, when you get into the nitty-gritty of it, it's quite a bit. So I just say queer, queer and pansexual. Because, yeah, would I be agnostic or atheist? Probably not either of them, but sometimes just for an initial category for people to kind of understand that I don't believe in a singular God or creator or gods and creators. Saying agnostic might be easier. The Wild West, I've definitely had supernatural things happen to me. I wouldn't necessarily know if the things that I've experienced that have led to my belief are supernatural, or how you would categorize them, really. Jet, as long as it's cooked and doused in syrup, who cares how a pancake looks? True that. Hello, my buds. You're looking very good, Sandy. Very healthy. Why, thank you. I'm trying something different with my hair. The flip, as opposed to just straight back. Because it's getting a little bit more poofier. And I think that's a good sign. Then I have to figure out how to deal with more poofier hair. Manope, agnostic, I believe, means not knowing, and sometimes also the belief that no one can know if it's is knowable. And it could mean that it's nothing. So it's, yeah. Grand Theft Autobot, atheist does not believe there is nothing. Atheist means we are not convinced by the supernatural evidence that is presented, if I heard what you said right. I thought atheist is you actively do not believe that there's a God or anything of that sort, and agnostic means you're open to the possibility that there's something else, but you know, you might wait on science or something that's provable before you would come to any conclusions. That's my understanding of it, that basically being atheist is you're actively believing in that there is nothing, as opposed to just being open to the fact that there might be nothing. But like I said, it's all, you know, you got to work out those terms and stuff, and sometimes it can get misinterpreted when you say things like that, because other people believe atheist and agnostic to mean different things. Just like when I say I'm non-binary, it means something different to different people, or queer, or pansexual, or all these other things. So there's some that are good as just like an introductory label, but then you need to go off label and get to know a person a bit more. So like I've seen things before they happen or as they're happening a few times. I've got some stuff on tape. I've seen something and have not told anyone, only to find out they did too. Jet, atheism is specifically the rejection of claim of a god or supernatural power, not the claim there is nothing. So many terms, so many terms. Shade Dragon, for fluffy hair, flax gel or chia gel are good but perishable. Probably more than my price point would allow for too. Right now, I found a bottle of gel, which I don't have in my hair right now, which is probably part of the reason why it's so poofy. I just use basic hairspray. But I found a sports gel in the men's section that was more than half the price of gel in the women's section for hair care products. I find I buy a lot of male toiletries and stuff, grooming products, because it's cheaper, does the same thing, just has like a different scent and packaging to it. But nope, supernatural evidence also isn't inherently an evidence for God. It would maybe be evidence for supernatural. Grand Theft Autobot, nope, atheist is not convinced of evidence. If compelling evidence presented to prove the existence of a God, then I will no longer be an atheist. Well, I would hope that of just any type of belief. Like, basically, atheists, yes, they have an active belief that there is no God or creators. But as somebody who does believe in other things and stuff, I would hope that with any religion out there, if there was proof one way or the other, you would change your mind. So that's not necessarily counter to what I said, because I would hope that goes for anyone, that should you be presented with evidence that is irrefutable, that you can understand, that your mind would be changed on an issue. And people talking about ghosts. I've not seen a ghost. But there's been other things that, you know, lead me to believe there's more than what we generally experience. And with the universe as big and as unknowable as it is, there are forces being applied to us that we do not know exist. And science detects them eventually, sometimes, you know, as science goes. But you know, people were being affected by UV rays before they knew that UV rays existed. So there could be other forces out there that we can't detect that are having effects on us that we find other explanations for. Like back in old newspapers in England and stuff, I saw things when it came to like obituaries. They died because of the moon cycle or something, because they didn't understand the effects that other things were having on their bodies or different illnesses, but they were finding things that made sense to them in that time. So right now, there could be things happening to us that we don't understand, but we've put a name to it with our ability to comprehend what's happening. So if I saw Jesus' face on toast, oh my god. Shade Dragon, I have wavy hair, but I can barely be bothered to wash and brush it, let alone take care of it beyond bleaching and drying fun colors. I've got all the splits. Yeah. I don't mind putting gel in my hair, but I find for it to really get those crispy curls that I love to play with, it has to be like right after I'm out of the shower. And then I get those beautiful crunchy curls, crispy curls that I love to play with. Nope, there is no evidence for a soul. I say soul casually, but I think our soul is just our brains, and our brains don't continue after death, to my knowledge. Yeah, I do believe in a certain type of soul. But that one's not necessarily based on evidence. Again, sometimes it's based on things that I've experienced, things that I feel. Not everything is based on evidence, which is why if evidence is presented to me one way or another, I will change my mind. But that's part of what having faith means, is believing in something that can't be proven. And so I have faith in this belief system that I've set up, but if something happens to make me change my mind, then I'll change my mind. because I'm very much open to the fact that there could be nothing. That you just blink away into nothing. I just don't believe that to be the case. Sometimes I wish it was. Hello, Looney Tunes 9000. You're just in time for me to sign off. Hello, Stinks Dragon, Sharon. Soul Life, I know Jesus. He's a bookbinder that does Japanese archery in Hawaii. And now we're getting into the politics of religion. I'm too tired and burnt out for that. Yeah, it's a bit late for me to start in the other thing now that Looney Tunes is here, but I also want to have confirmation other people are here for the discussion, so. Shade Dragon, I made Sticks a really good natural hair care goo once, but it was spendy and labor intensive and smelled like chocolate and flowers, and I wanted to eat it. That sounds yummy. I don't want munchable hair. I want crunchy hair. Let's see. Yeah, I'm about burned out. So, yeah, I'll check in with the other person, see if I should make it a live stream or an individual video. I'll have the videos about the election recap, video about membership, working on the video about TYT. But I think for now I'm going to stick to like regular news streams being Sunday evenings. That seems to work for a lot of people, except for when the Vanguard decides to have a stream at the same time. I don't know. Do they stream every Sunday? I don't think they do. Just when there's like something relevant in the discourse, I think, is the only times that they stream on Sundays. But it'd be nice to not overlap with them because a lot of my audience is there. Looney Tunes 9000, damn, am I too late? I had to take a weekend off because I was burnt out from Monday. Everyone's allowed to take a weekend off from time to time. And there was a lot of different live streams happening Monday night. People still talking about ghosts and stuff. Oh. The Looney Tunes 9000 TYT video is not nearly being done yet. It's just now that the election is over and my other secret book is almost taken care of, then I can devote way more time in getting the TYT video done. And believe me, I want to get it done so soon because I'm pretty worried it's not going to be relevant much longer and I've already invested so much time into it. But I can't even give an estimate as to when it will be done because while it will be a priority, a lot more work needs to go into it. So, and I don't want to rush it. I want to make sure that I'm covering everything that I want to so I don't have to make another one after it. Because I just kind of want to brush my hands at TYT after that's done. John Davis, Sandy Sundays. So Life, as soon as I get off work, VG chat ends. As soon as I get home, chat ends. Hello, kitty cat. Why don't you come up here and show everyone your beautiful face? Come on up, Abernathy. He's so chunky that he's having troubles figuring out how he can jump up on my lap at times. He needs to lose weight. Yeah, you do. It's still just very problematic when Frodo needs to have access to food whenever. I do try to watch it, make sure he doesn't overeat as much as I can, but there's only so much I can do while making sure Frodo still has access to all of his food. I need to get him I need to get Abernathy exercising a bit more. Come on. You can still do it. You did it earlier today. He like looks, and then he puts his paws up, but then he won't jump. Come on. And it also depends on the type of pants I'm wearing, because right now I just have on pajama pants. If I'm wearing jeans, he feels much more secure and just jumping up. Come on. Here we go. There we go. Everyone wants to say hi to you, Abernathy. Here we go. Say hi to everyone. Say hi. Say hi. Oh. Okay, I think I should. You know, people are showing the little emojis of the cat in a box, and I was thinking of like adding that to like my logo or something, because I have cats and I'm left of the box. But then there's just too much about Schrodinger's cat. I totally said that wrong. You know, it's getting late when. And it's like, I don't want people trying to debate if the cat is alive or dead in the box. Yeah. You need more exercise, sweetie. You need more exercise. You need more exercise. Are you going to look up? There we go. There we go. Look at that. Oh, I love the pattern right under his neck there. It's so beautiful. He's a beautiful kitty. You're a beautiful kitty. You're a beautiful kitty. Yeah, you're a beautiful kitty. You're a beautiful kitty. And he's shedding like crazy. I have never had a cat that sheds this much, but just by scratching him here, I'm having hair fly all over the place. It's probably just his breed, but I've never had a cat expel this much fur before. And I've had long fur cats. It's like there's that fur that's like all over right now. It gets stuck in my makeup and makes my face all tickly. Anyway, I should probably go. I'll check in with other people about other things, and yeah. And yeah, buy my book. Do that sort of thing. Let's do this. Let's do this. All of this. You guys know all of this. I'd love to sell more of my Necroplasm book. I sold 4 copies last month. 2 copies was to the same person who's not part of my SandBox, just somebody who I know in real life that wanted to be supportive of me, which was nice. Yeah, I'd love for more people to buy my book so I can talk about it more and feel more justified for when I get back into writing sequels and prequels and stuff, because I'm just going to escape into that world. It's like, it's one of those things of, I'm sure all of you would hope me success with my books. However, that is tied to if I am extremely successful with my books, I might just devote myself to that. But at the same time, I don't think I could ever completely give up content creating, because I do like doing this. I like this content creating. It took me a while. When I first started it, I hated it. Oh, did I ever hate it. But I stuck with it long enough and got comfortable with it enough. And so I do like doing this. So I don't think I would give it up easily. But if I start making millions of dollars writing books, the millions of dollars I'm making from writing those books can probably be invested into different campaigns that will help politics far more than this channel will ever help. So, you know, I gotta take it and leave it sometimes. Yeah, if I become a million bazillionaire, the left will be very well funded, because there's no way I would want to die a million bazillionaire, because why? I don't need all that money. I would just keep enough money to make sure that I'm secure for the rest of my life, but then the rest of it, why do I need it? I don't. And I'd make sure that it goes to places where I feel the most benefit could happen. Okay. That's not quite the right spelling, Grand Theft Audible. Audible. I'm tired. Abernapbie. I was thinking of spelling it that way, but the way that you have, but I don't know, something didn't sit right with me about the last part of that. But nobody, and also about my book, nobody put yourself out trying to buy my book. I don't want people hurting to buy my book. I just love talking about it, and people would probably appreciate it a little bit more if they knew what I was talking about, and I could have a live stream specifically for people who have read the book, and we could just talk all about it, because there are some things I would love to brainstorm on with the sequels and prequels, which requires people to have actually read the book and be okay with future spoilers. Because while a lot of the story is developing in my head, there's a couple of areas where it's like, I know something vaguely happens here, but I need help kind of sourcing out what it is. And also I have to go back in history, because I took a lot of work to make sure that there was accuracies in my book when it came to historical elements or places. It takes place in Ottawa. And so the places it takes place in Ottawa are real. And so when I go back in the past and do the prequels, I want them to line up and actually have like real historical events that they're tied to and stuff. And for some of the main characters, that's not too difficult. But two of the main characters, because my vampires are from all around the world, one is about 1600 years old, and she's from India. And another one, he's almost 4200 years old, and he's from Nigeria. Him being from Nigeria is not specifically stated in the book, but that's where he's from. Although the character being from India, it is explained that she is from India. I do not know enough about the histories of 1,000 years ago to be writing about that. So I'm going to have to do a lot more investigation to make sure that it lines up properly and whatnot. But I do try to have and I still need to plot out the timeline to make sure things line up properly and that there's proper overlaps with their different storylines. There's a lot of prep work that needs to go into it before I can start writing the sequels and prequels and whatnot. The Wild West vampires are real also. Hello, good for Gabby. I literally just ordered it from Amazon. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I so look forward to talking about the book and the world of it and all that sort of stuff. But I'm autistic enough that when other people have things that they're super passionate about and start talking about, it could be celery. And I'll just be like, tell me more. Tell me more. Because I love watching people talk passionately about things that they like, Okay. Well, I'll have to check in the status of Anti-Case Tarot. Because I'd want her to be here for the conversation. And yeah. And then I think it'll have to be its own live stream, because by the end of a news live stream, I'm kind of tired and I want my full attention to this conversation. Stinks Dragon, do you have an electronic version? You can buy it as an ebook on Amazon. Unfortunately, you need Kindle for that, but it is available as an ebook. Let's see. Is everything okay, Soul Life? Ah. Hello, kitty. Loon Tunes 9000, not when Andy K is calling us out for being racist. Ah, yeah. There's a conversation there that needs to be had. But yeah, okay, I'll look into that. Shade Dragon, Auntie K's Tarot is a regular member of my SandBox. And she is Indigenous. Hi, sweetie. Okay. I'm pooped. I need to relax. I've been gabbing now for a lot longer than I need to be. And I'm still distracted by the SandBox. Okay. So, I will sign off. And he is purring, but you guys can't hear that probably. But he is also shedding like crazy. Let's see if I do this. And just pull it right off of him and whoop, there it goes. You can see the fur falling. Oh. Carrie, hello, good night. We're going to be talking about the issues that Auntie K's Tarots brings to the SandBox. And it's going to be a nuanced, in-depth conversation. I have my notes, but I do want her to be here for that. And I'm going to check with her. If she's banned, she's going to be unbanned. And if she wants it in a live stream, I'll do it in a live stream. But since I already just worked today on typing out all my notes, I can easily make it into a script as well and just shoot it as a standalone video. So I'll check. Because I think people are missing a lot of what's happening in the SandBox, because the SandBox is a horrible, horrible platform for nuanced conversations. My God, cat. It's just the amount of fur coming off of him right now. I brushed you like yesterday. Oh. Nobody's in trouble, Shade Dragon. You know, it's more about learning different perspectives and things of that sort. Nobody's in trouble. But it is something that needs to be talked about in a nuanced way. But like, I'm not mad at anyone, nothing of that sort. But there's definitely, I think, a lot of perspectives people are missing in this conversation because the SandBox is horrible for that. Okay. I'm seeing she's not banned. Okay. Okay. And also, this was a conversation I was planning on having a long time ago anyway. It's just, I was hoping to find somebody to join me on stream for that type of conversation, but I'm horrible at networking. Mud Buds, how much do you get from buying on Amazon? I'd have to check, actually. Let's see. I keep on forgetting. Also, they do it in American dollars. So, let's see. Is that, which one did I sell there? I think I only make about $5 for the book. Roughly around that. Let's see. I go this month, let's do that. Oh, no, I have to. The dashboard for my Kindle is a little bit. I'm trying to see if I can get a report that goes back more than a month. It should be easy to do. No, I don't want that. There's orders. 0 pages read on the ebooks. I should be able to go back 90 days. What is with this? I have today, yesterday, this month. But I've gone back 90 days before. I'm sorry, that's just to try to figure out. But basically, with the ebook, I get more of a royalty, but there's also less of an overhead. And the reason why a paperback has to be so much more is the cost of the printing is deducted, plus Amazon takes their cut. So I believe I get 60% of the paperback and 70% of the ebook or something like that of the sale. But basically, I'm only making about $5 per book once you deduct things like printing cost and shipping and all that sort of stuff. I can buy John Davis, only $5. You're being ripped off. Yeah, that's Amazon. Because my other book, from the looks of it, which is a little bit more pricey, when it sells, I get just over $6 for it. And like I said, it's a little bit more expensive. So a paper book of my other book, when it sells, I get just over $6. That's American money. Canadian, so convert to Canadian. So it'd be more than $5 Canadian that I'm making for it. If you go through a publisher, you probably get more than if you go through an actual publisher, because publishers take a lot of the royalties and stuff, or a lot of the revenue to cover the costs of being the publishing company and promotion and all that sort of stuff. So I believe you do get more of the profit from it being on Amazon, plus you maintain all of your own rights and stuff. So should my book become viral and it gets launched into a series and stuff of that sort, that's all me. I get all that. Also, I can order author copies. And so when I order an author copy, I'm just paying for printing and shipping. And so then I make more per book that way. However, it doesn't show up on my sales online. So if I want it to show up as sales on Amazon, I need people to buy it direct from there. And when people buy it direct from there, there's a better chance of it getting promoted and algorithms and all that sort of BS. So, yeah. So much cat fur on my face. So I do make more than $5 when it's in Canadian dollars. And that's the other part. Trouble trying to read these things is that they like to list it in American dollars. So the fixed price that I have on them is in American dollars. I can't fix the price at Canadian dollars. So the cost of the book will fluctuate. See, does this tell me? It doesn't easily tell me, I think. Maybe if I go here. Unpublish, unlink. No, that's not stuff I want to do. Sorry, I'd have to go into them a bit more to find out how much I make in revenue. When you do the setup, it tells you exactly how much you make per book, but I would have to remember that off the top of my head, which I don't. But I had reports. The reports used to go back further. I don't know why it's not. Do I have to download the report? Sorry, I'm getting very distracted now. Will that open automatically? You guys can't see what I'm doing. Oh, there it is. So this is only, yeah, this isn't telling me anything new. Because it's only giving me... Where is the thing where it's like, okay, month to date, maybe? Oh, here we go. Okay, choose a month. Previous month. Paperback. Okay. Are you going to tell? Oh my god, I'm getting so frustrated with this. It doesn't tell me, it just tells me how many units I sold now, but it's not telling me what I made. Oh, royalties, that would do it. Choose a month. Let's go back to April. Canada. And so, okay, I think I have it now. If I do some math here quickly. 6, 4. And that doesn't add up. I am not making that much per paperback. Anyway, I'm toast. I'm toast. That was April. Payout amount. Sorry, I'm getting way too distracted looking at this, and I'm tired. Anyway. Miss Man, does Emma Vagelin know if you're drawing about her? I imagine she knows, but I have not heard anything about it. And she hasn't responded to like any of the tweets I sent out about it or anything, but I did DM her. We're mutuals on Twitter. Plus, Matt Leck liked one of the tweets about it, so at least he knows about it and probably would have told her about it too. So I imagine she knows about it, but I haven't gotten confirmation. And believe it or not, I'm going to be redoing the drawing. I'm not happy with it. I'm going to find a different pose and do another drawing. Because while it's good, it's not up to the standard I want. Oh. Shade Dragon, forget vampires. Sandy will be a were-kitty. She'll be wearing kitty everywhere. Yes. Anyway, as Looney Tune is kind of referring to, I need to sign off before I keep on just getting distracted. Because I am. Okay. I've been sitting in this chair all day. Well, not in this one. I swapped it out. I was in my noisier but slightly more comfortable chair earlier, but this is my standard chair for live streams, which isn't as noisy, but I need to go relax. So, keep your eyes open for videos that I just post that are not part of my live streams. about the federal election, about membership, and yeah, calling it a night. So thank you to everyone for coming out. Thank you to mods. Thank you to the people who've signed up, become patrons, who've become members, who have helped out financially in any way whatsoever. I super appreciate it. For people who have liked, subscribed, promoted, I appreciate it all. People who are just watching and hopefully learning, I appreciate you. Yeah. Okay. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.